Hell yeah.
Evergreen. That's an evergreen sigh there.
10 days of bullshit, you know?
Are we live?
Nothing good.
Yeah, we are. We're doing it live.
He just said we're live.
Yeah.
Josiah, I just have to say, great job. Great job in everything you're doing.
Thank you, buddy.
The community really
Killing it.
appreciates you. Yeah, you are killing it.
I like to
Doing
think
well.
so. I like to think so. We're gonna let people pour in. In the meantime, IRI, it's been a minute, man. How are you? What's new? What's popping?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. I don't know what we'll be talking about, but you know, this crew's easy to get along with, so it should be fun.
Even Pisco?
Especially
even
me.
Pisco. Especially Pisco.
That's right. That's right.
Why don't we start with IRI? What have you been up to? What's going on? What's you were doing work with Occupy for a little bit? Is that what you're still doing now?
Not doing that. I did for about 6 months. I helped them build up their channel. Now they're one of the biggest YouTube channels, and I think I still have their top video at like 4.5 million views. So I'm pretty proud of that because I couldn't get over 10,000 views on a YouTube video on my own, but I linked up with them, and now I got millions of views. So it gave me a lot of, you know, it was like
exposure.
Attaboy. Yeah, well, it just gave me confidence that I can do it if I link up with the right people. But
Can I tell you
I
just
stopped
real
doing
quick,
that.
Real quick, the first time I saw that video, because like I'd subscribed to them and I got a notification, whatever, and I clicked it, and I thought I had a fucking stroke because I'm like, what is IRI do? Like, what is he running this channel now? I thought like maybe the feed had been crossed or something like that. That was a bomb ass video. Yeah, I got millions. I think it was like a million in 24 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got 1 million. It was for Trump at the Libertarians convention. But, you know, I made those videos myself. I just edited them, wrote them, and uploaded it, and they helped me with the thumbnail and the title. So it was good to see I could do it if I link up with the right org. But yeah. But I haven't been doing that for a minute.
Yeah.
Now I'm debating on TikTok. I'm a TikTok debate god, dude.
Wow.
Oof.
Well, again,
Is that
to brag on IRI there for a minute, you know that this man metaphorically disemboweled Ben Shapiro on Jubilee, right? Like, I mean, that was the most brutal takedown of Ben Shapiro's professional political career, with the possible exception of that Andrew Neil interview, you know, when he was on the BBC. It was pretty dominant, man. You
Yes.
killed it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I got about 14 minutes in the ring with Benjamin, and it was fun. Everybody was laughing, but I got to meet like big TikTok stars there, Dean and Parker, who are the new boys on the block. And they are like, dude, you should come debate on TikTok. So I've been doing it over there, and it's a lot of fun. I get a big crowd. It's a big challenge. You know, I got to research talking points that I otherwise wouldn't. I hear a lot of talking points, and I think that's kind of the future of politics on the internet. I don't know how you guys feel, but the debate format is really entertaining and a great way to share information and dispel misinformation. People like watching fight.
Hell yeah.
Do you find that I find that with debates, I have to space them out because I get kind of tired of hearing the same arguments and saying the same thing. Do you find that it gets repetitive sometimes, or do you enjoy that?
I enjoy the repetitiveness, but I go like 4 or 5 hours straight of like the same subject. Lately, I've been saying on my behind me, it says bring home Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So it triggers all the conservatives like, he is home. And so I hear the same arguments over and over and over. But there's little like nuance to each of their arguments that challenges me. So I think it's a great way to just like bulk up and get strong on my talking points.
Josiah, I have a quick question for you. Did you yassify your volume there in the manner of infrared Haas? Did you increase your gain in that moment?
People said they couldn't hear me at first, so I just a few seconds ago tweaked it up, and then they said it was too loud, so then I knocked it down a bit. So I usually don't do my live and learn stuff at this computer. I do it at a different one, but with the move, everything's all fucked up. And yeah, for my blood pressure,
No worries.
probably shouldn't get into it.
I had a question for IRI. In terms of like the demographics of the people that you're debating, what do you notice? A lot younger, skewing a lot more like female than on Twitch, or is it more male-oriented space still because of the debate stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question. As far as the people that debate me, I would say it's a lot of older people. I'll get some random guy from, you know, butt F wherever, Indiana, who wants to call me an idiot and a libtard and stuff. But I'll also get young kids like conservatives who want to go toe-to-toe. So it's all over. But I will say my demographics for my viewership is like 75%, 35 plus. And I was shocked. I thought it'd be a bunch of
Wow.
young kids, but it's mostly old people like me hanging out over there watching me. My style's a little different. It's a lot of fighting over there, people calling each other idiots, but I'm chill. I just kind of let people talk and try to walk them through their beliefs and show them where they're wrong. And, I think I try to kill them with kindness.
Yeah, in the normie debate space, I think that's the way to go. It's pretty rare that somebody who's like just from the street who wants to debate about politics is like really aggressive and annoying as fuck. You really get that from a specific culture within the online debate sphere.
I feel pretty attacked right now.
No. Pisco he is a product of the culture. He didn't create the culture. I'm just, and Pisco probably agrees with me that, when you're talking to normies,
Turning into hot topic Pisco.
I don't believe that at all. I believe that in his day-to-day life, Piso is also, he hits people with a yes or no. Like
Dude,
when he asked Joe out for the first time, it was, do you want to go on a date? Yes or no? That was it, wasn't it?
Josiah, turn your mic down just a little bit. Turn it down just a little bit.
Listen, there's
Just
no
a
way
touch.
that Pisco
No, that's too low.
Oh my God! It went from 99
9 to 94. Hang on.
Guy is going to
There's a sweet spot there.
lose his mind.
What about now? What about fucking now?
Fine.
Yeah, that's better.
I think it's great.
suppose.
It's
Look,
doable. It's doable.
Pisco, if you did man on the street, you'd have to rein it in a little bit for your own safety at the very least.
Bro, he already is though. I feel like Pisco's already like. I've been watching your debates, man. I watched your debate with Rob Noor, and that guy, bro. If there's anybody who's gonna test your ability
That's
to
fair.
stay composed, maybe even more so than Tim Pool, it's Rob
Test
Noor.
your patience.
And,
Test your patience.
Dude, we watched him.
Yeah.
I was watching you for like 45 minutes. It took you like 45 minutes to finally break and just be like, "Fuck you!" I don't know what you said. You like lost it a little bit, but for the first 45 minutes, you were super composed. So I don't know. I
Hey,
feel like
you
you've
know,
been doing
I
it differently
try.
lately.
Yeah.
Speaking
Well,
of
actually,
debates,
well, hang on. That's why we brought IRI here is because we need to have a good Kevin Kleinsmith panel. We talk about Crossfire Hurricane and everything else. And I thought we might need to get into the weeds on this. So we have Pisco and IRI to go into the intricacies of such things. So this is we're revealing the spoiler here, everybody. This is the official Kevin Kleinsmith panel, and we'll dive into it.
We need to get Rob on the pod. I feel like he would say yes if we asked him.
Yeah.
he definitely would.
Oh,
Yeah, he
boy.
would.
I won't talk to him anymore, man. I don't know why you waste your time, Pisco. He's so cruel to you. You're so nice to him every time, and he just abuses you over and over again. He calls you a liar, bad faith,
Piece of shit.
He's calling you a
Yeah.
bitch right now, is what he's saying.
Yeah, he's a
Look,
bitch. You're a
It's
bitch,
fun
Rob.
for me. It's fun.
I honestly feel a little bit similar to IRI. It's like I like talking to Rob, but it's like it does feel toxic, Like I'm getting called a bitch and a piece of shit and a hack, and it's like I'm just like I open the conversation with like, "Hey, Bobby Noor, how's it going?" And he's
like, "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah, and I'm like, man, like I don't.
Let me ask you this: did you ever condemn in real time the Visor War? Yeah, no,
And then you say yes, and he goes, "I don't believe you." That's
I
what
don't
he
believe
does.
you.
He
I just don't believe you. I don't. We all should see. It's very clear. There was an obvious double standard. No, I know these fucking talking points shit. Like, I understand how he does. I watch his stream. What can I say?
Somebody pointed out that he sounds like the guy in The Princess Bride who goes inconceivable, and now I can't.
Wallace
unhear
Shawn.
it.
Wallace Shawn. Yeah.
I can't unhear it now. It's fucking spot on.
Yeah.
Can I say though? Speaking of debates, we have Econo Boy, our resident Econo Boy expert. He is going on Tim Pool to discuss with Connor Points
Listen, okay,
the welfare
listen.
state.
All right,
Good
I
for
am
you.
gonna be talking about the welfare state on Tim Pool show. Here's how this started. Okay, Tim Pool organized a debate on the welfare state, and he invited Fabian Liberty, which is fine. Fabian's a very anti-welfare state guy, makes some sense. But then the guy he brought on to defend the welfare state was Connor. And look, bringing on a small government conservative to defend the welfare state is not the way to do it, if you ask me. So that's
So
why
what
I
are you
kinda
guys going to
was-
debate about if he's
Yeah,
in
so
favor
Connor-
of the welfare state?
Listen, Connor, and here's how the booking goes. Okay, Tim Pool, the guys are like, "Hey, you have to kind of like bring your own opponent." I'm like, "Okay, well,
It's like a BYOB situation. Bring your own beer.
It's like you have to bring your own opponent." So I'm like trying to reach out. I reached out to like Alex Narasta, who's a libertarian. He says Brian Kaplan. Brian Kaplan's not free. Yaron Brook, another like Rand Institute guy. I couldn't get the logistics with him. So nonetheless, we've kind of reduced down to Connor. And Connor was interested because he basically was like, "Look, I got all these conservatives that call me a fucking libtard all the time because I'm anti-Trump. So if I debate a cowboy on how much the welfare state sucks, because he is just a small government, he just doesn't believe in abolishing the welfare state like Fabian does, then maybe, you know, I'll get back some of my conservative bona fides, right? And it's like,
he ain't never getting that back. He endorsed Kamala Harris. He's
a rhino.
For Progressive Victory PAC.
yeah, we'll
Does
see.
he thinks because you talk about the welfare state on Tim Pool and is like nice to you that he's gonna get his bona fides back?
The Tim Pool comment section was not kind to him. I'm sure I will be the target of their ire in come Friday, I guess. So it'll be pretty fun. I mean, you know, I've been doing a lot of research. It's been a while since I've had the opportunity, honestly, to debate a conservative on the economy. It's just kind of not really happened that often since I've
Speaking of
run
the
through whole
economy,
roster. Oh yeah, the
and
economy.
debating them, I wanted to get your and IRI's take on the negative 0.3% growth in Q1 of the
Biden
economy.
market.
And
It's the Biden.
whether
It's Joe
Trump-
Biden's market.
Is it coming
IRI.
through?
No, seriously, IRI. I'd like to know how the fuck do you feel about President Biden leaving us with a negative 0.3 reaction or contraction from the economy? Why did Joe Biden do this to us?
Josiah, you sound like the voice of God. Like it's very,
Oh my
it's
God,
very
you're
loud
killing
compared to everybody else. I'm just saying.
All right. Listen, I'm gonna tweak it. All right.
I
What
just
about
can't
now?
tolerate this much
Literally,
punch.
that's better. That's perfect.
Better,
Don't touch
better, better,
anything.
All right, I'm leaving it alone.
You did. I swear to God, he
did-
just got louder. He literally just. Oh, whatever. All right,
No,
go
it's
ahead.
good. You're good. You're good.
I think he's fine. I don't know. I'm not an economist, but my
Josiah,
understanding is because-
Josiah, you're hot micing now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to troll him. Okay, go on, IRI.
my understanding is we because we front loaded importing so much in anticipation of the tariffs that it caused this dip in our GDP. And also it seems like the business community is paralyzed because they don't know what the hell to do. Trump is on and off on his tariffs. So I don't know. Joe Biden left him with a beautiful economy and a beautiful stock market, and he's doing everything he can to break it in real time.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think that's kind of the cope from the MAGA base, though, right? That though the reason we had this contraction was because of imports. The reason why imports are counted, they're taken out of the GDP measure because they would be double counted otherwise, right? So you can think of imports as like not counting into GDP because you import something to consume it, to be part of your investment activity. The government might import certain things, right? And then that's how we get sort of final products from GDP. And then exports obviously count because that's an inflow of money. And so while it's true that we imported a kind of preposterously large amount of shit because of the Trump tariffs, that isn't why GDP contracted, right? Like GDP contracted because we have
Domestic production is down.
Yeah, like we have a really, really high level of uncertainty into the economy. And so there's just a lot of, hiring freezes, layoffs. There's a lot of investment freezes. I saw a statistic just the other day which showed that $8 billion worth of IRA investment had been canceled because of the trade war. You have to import a lot of stuff for those projects. That's just $8 billion from, the renewable energy components of the IRA, right? So, we are seeing a generalized slowdown of the economy.
Well, this can't be true. This can't be true. I watched an interview with Trump, and he was saying everything was up and going great.
Look, okay, to be fair, Biden was
One of you
president-
guy is lying, and you want me to think that it's you, and it's
like
the fucking president, bro.
You're some schmuck on the internet, and the president of the United States is saying something else to contradict you. So
Five-time
Look,
Mar-a-Lago
Biden-
golf tournament winner, and who the fuck are you?
The thing is,
over here.
Biden was president and growth was good, but when Trump lost, he sabotaged the economy within that first 3 weeks of the year. And that's what, really growth would have been negative 10% if Trump hadn't taken office. I mean, that's
Better.
really the narrative that I would go with.
Better.
Well, we should add to that too that Trump had, and this might, the setting might merit its own conversation. But earlier today, Trump had his latest cabinet meeting, and I think it was Andrew Feinberg, a reporter, asked him, a question about these. Listen, when Biden was in office, you took credit for every time the stock market and the economy did well. And now you're in office and the stock market's doing poorly and you're disavowing it. So what gives? What's with the double standard? And of course, Trump, like it was, his answer was a shit show. But my favorite part of his answer was he ends it with, he's like, you know, Q1 is definitely Biden. And quite frankly, Q2 might be Biden too. So like, he's like pre-framing. But so that's my question is how much is Joe Biden responsible for whatever happens in Q2?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think that's what, because if you talk to economic analysts, you talk to people who, you know, are consultants and people who really look at these things, right? What they've said is two things, right? And I think this is why Trump is saying that, because he understands the same thing. His economic advisors are probably telling him the same thing, is that, you know, the material impact of the tariffs. I mean, keep in mind, this was a policy that was for the most part announced in April, right? So after all, like in theory, Q1 doesn't include the biggest tariffs from what he announced in April, right? And so
Liberation Day, yeah.
Essentially, Q1 in that contraction in gross, for the most part, is just uncertainty with regard to tariffs that haven't even been announced yet. And so that's why a lot of the analysts who have come out and talked about this have said, really, Q2 and especially Q3, over the summer and over the fall, that is when you're going to see the
murder zone.
Right, that's when you're going to see the real effects of these trade policies come into place. Because it's one thing to announce a tariff, but it's another thing to see how shipping actually gets affected, how the goods that are supplied actually start to flow after that. Is
it fear mongering about the empty seaports in Seattle? Like, how worried should Americans be about empty seaports?
I mean, in terms of how much the average American should be worried, I mean, not like cataclysmically worried, right? But something like that is certainly a sign of a contraction in growth, probably a sign of some kind of recession. It's not as if we're going to, you know, you're not going to like go to Walmart and see like half of the shelves completely empty or anything like that. But, you know, there's going to be shit that's unavailable to buy and things are going to get more expensive and people have less disposable income and unemployment will probably tick up, right? And the transition will eventually get smoothed over, either in the form of Trump conceding and getting rid of the tariffs or in the form of obviously supply chains adjusting. But the end effect at best, especially throughout at least the next 4 years, like even if what Trump is saying is true about tariffs, that it reinvigorates manufacturing, which it really isn't, that's some shit that takes years to materialize, right? So what you see for probably at least the rest of his term, if he keeps these tariffs, is just Americans being poorer, right? So that's going to be a very
stagflation, right? Like a stagnant, like inflation and unemployment going up, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes. Yeah, I mean, we probably wouldn't see like 15, 20% inflation like in the 1970s on account of the current tariffs that have been announced. But, you know, insofar as inflation is supposed to be 2% and this causes it to be, you know, 4%, right? Like this does put the Fed in kind of an awkward position where, again, when we talked about this maybe a few shows ago, if we see a recession, but inflation is like stubbornly at, you know, 3-4% or whatever, well, I mean, what's the Fed supposed to do, right? Like they want to cut rates to stimulate growth, but they also don't want to have fucking, you know, 7-8% inflation like we saw under Biden. So it's, you know, that's why stagflation is so difficult.
Well,
so
let's say let's say like absolute best case scenario, like game this out with me. Like let's say Q2 comes around and we are plunging into a recession and the political pressure mounts and Trump himself decides that he wants to unfuck the economy and put some adults in charge. That's a big assumption that he would do something like that. But how long would it take for America to course correct if he took decisive action in the Q2 to actually like take good advice and do economically sound policy? Which isn't to say that he's going to, but yes.
I think you could recover most of the issues within maybe 6 months. You know, I think that one of the issues with that is that there's a lot of businesses, like one of the reasons why the growth wasn't so bad. And one of the reasons why people say like, oh, the core of GDP is actually still strong. You see like, oh, you know, durable spending and like consumption and things like that are still growing at healthy rates. One of the reasons for all of that is because not only are businesses front loading, they're importing all of these things so they can kind of weather the storm for at least a little while. But when you poll business leaders and you ask them, hey, you know, what's your plan to deal with this? Like most of them say, I just kind of assume that this is not going to be permanent. Like I'm assuming that he's going to bluff and he's going to get rid of a lot of these tariffs because of how bad it'll be for the economy. But there is a portion that takes him seriously and says, I don't think this is going to be temporary. And they're making more long-term decisions. So one of the problems with this like topsy-turvy, will he, won't he kind of bullshit policy that he's doing is that some businesses are taking him seriously and reorganizing investment to structurally lower levels because they don't trust the current administration to be stable. And that's growth that takes a long time to come back, right? So it's bad no matter what, but you could avoid the worst part of a recession, you know, if he were to reverse course decisively.
You just got a fat ass super chat. We should call that out. Yeah.
I know. Thank you so much, Grassroots Hegemon, who super chatted me. Thank you. He asks, do you think most Republicans are bad people or most Trump supporters are bad people? Either, both, or neither. I don't know. It's kind of like not a useful discussion for me to have. I think that there are a lot of Trump supporters who are generally good people in most aspects of their lives. We have to remember, and I think IRI brings this up a lot, and I want IRI to speak to this, that most people, politics isn't their day to day. You know, they're not constantly thinking about or talking about the things that we're talking about. And so you can conceive of a lot of people who have shit politics or who have bad ideas for the country where they're not really giving it much thought, or maybe they've been given the bad info or the wrong stuff. And so I don't know that a totalizing look at just their politics is enough to say that they're a bad person, except for the people who are truly, the basket of deplorables who are talking about, horrible stuff. But yeah, no, Ira, I'm curious your take.
I don't think Trump supporters are bad people. There are some in there, but they are inundated with misinformation and lies. I mean, listen, Donald Trump every day. What do you expect? People aren't going to go research stuff and look into it. Oh, let me go see if Trump, the president of the United States, is telling the truth. So I'm pretty gentle with them on that. Now, I will say that there's a saying, not all Trump supporters are racist, but every racist voted for Donald Trump. So there is something to be said there.
What do you feel about the Republican leaders? So like take Republican voters out of the equation. What about like MAGA influencers and Republican political leaders? Do you think they're good people?
No. God, no. Like, I love Tim Pool. He claims, look, Russia, they paid me. They didn't tell me what to do or change anything. It's like, dude, that's 100 times worse. That means you were so on message and on brand that they're like, don't change anything, dude. So I think people like that are just monsters and disgusting.
Would you ever go on Tim Pool?
Would you ever go on Tim Pool? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We should like try to set that up. That'd be good.
Hell yeah.
And then Hutch as well. Even though Hutch says he won't do it, I think he'd do extremely well in it, especially if it's like
do it, Hutchie.
Especially if it's a 2v2, right? So
I'm a very anxious person. I'm just saying
if it were like you and IRI,
I avoid that kind of stress. I don't like that kind of stress.
If the spotlight wasn't just on you, because obviously you're a very competent debater, but to like manage your anxiety, if you had a partner, like I had the one time I was on, they invited me and Luke Beasley on together, so it wasn't like me, staring down Tim and Andrew and Myron, right? So would you do that? Would you do a 2v2?
Maybe.
I think so.
We'll talk about it. I'd be more inclined, but I mean, to the point of like the super chatter, like people are complicated, and I agree with what Pisco was talking about. I think the problem is not necessarily that we have a lot of evil people in this country. And also, like, what do you define as bad? If someone is like really stubbornly ignorant, is that bad, or is that I don't know what to call it. That's like a different kind of bad to me than like a Nazi. There are, actual white nationalists in this country. I would call that bad, like unequivocally bad. And then you have people like my dad, who's like a big Trump supporter. And when I look at that, I think to myself, like, that doesn't line up with the person that I know, according to like my principles, because he's also somebody that like, I could call him at 3 a.m. and he would like drive to wherever I was to help me with something if I needed help. Like that to me, that's a sign of like a good person. Like he would like help you move if you asked him to. That's a sign of like,
you don't think Donald Trump would help you move?
No, I mean, but I just think, like it's difficult to say like confidently that every single person that voted for Trump is like a bad person. But there is a big problem when, a lot of people just don't engage with politics. I'm not saying everybody needs to engage the way that we do, because we are certainly in the minority. We're in like the top like 5% of people that consume this kind of news. And for whatever reason, we like it. And it's just, but for a lot of people, they don't like the noise. They don't like the tension.
And I just want to add one more thing. In the context of the meta here, don't ever go on podcasts saying that Trump people are all bad people. And even though there's an obvious double standard, so the point here I'll bring up is what happened in Canada, right? So what happened in Canada is there was this enormous feeling for the longest time that the liberals were going to get wiped out by Pierre Poilievre. And all of a sudden, Trudeau drops out and Donald Trump comes in and says the 51st state stuff. And the liberals, now have won a minority government in an absolutely stunning and shocking fashion. And what has been the response from conservatives? They say Canada's cooked. The people here all suck. The liberals have all, they've indoctrinated. They all, they hate the youth. They hate everyone else. So they don't have a problem using a broad brush to paint liberals, whether it's in Canada, whether it's here. But unfortunately, Democrats are held to a much higher standard. And so never get caught in the trap of saying Trump people are all bad. The movers and shakers, yeah, 100%. People who are actively malicious. And, these definitions, they're going to change according to who you're talking to. But I don't think about it in those terms. I don't think it's useful.
I had a super chat too. I don't know if one of you guys mentioned polling, but where do you get the information about polling business leaders on how they're planning on dealing with tariffs? Did one of you guys mention that before or something?
Yeah, I did. It's a good question. I mean, I don't know that there's a specific repository or anything like that. I mean, you just Google like business leader poll, or you can Google like CEO poll tariffs. There's a lot of indexes out there.
I think CNBC, for example, I think they do business leader polls that they reference because they're like specifically focused on financial analysis and things like that.
Yeah, there's polls of CEOs and it's like, oh, the CEO CFO poll. You can find these things out there. It's a pretty widely done thing by news organizations and consulting firms. So.
All right,
speaking of debate, which makes me think of for what, even though it's supposed to be an interview, was the conversation that Trump had yesterday on ABC. IRI, did you react to that? Did you watch that whole thing?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw the clips last night.
What'd you think?
My favorite part was the Trump adamant that the letters M, S, and 13 are on that guy's knuckles. It's like, dude, it's not on there. And I was showing that to conservatives on TikTok today, and they were kind of blown away. So
there's a lot of cope. Like a lot of his supporters are doing the thing where it's like, no, he means marijuana is M and S is. He very explicitly in the clip is like, no, it's MS-13. Like MS-13 is on his hand. But I'm seeing a ton of cope in my replies.
Well, the interviewer was like, he goes, well, no, but he had like Trump, he had the marijuana and this, and he's like, no, it literally, it said, I saw it, MS-13.
Yeah, and then he said MS-13 because the interviewer even said, he's like, there are symbols which, are disputed. Some people say it represents MS-13. No, it said MS-13. Yeah, so I'm curious, IRI, when you presented that to the conservatives that you debated on TikTok, how do they react to it? Like when you said they're blown away, are they accepting it? Are they making excuses for it? Is it half and half?
They honestly, they hadn't heard it. They hadn't watched it. So I played it. I can play the little clip, 1 minute clip from, from Twitter on there. And they took it in. And I don't think I had one of them say, yeah, no, he meant this or that. They were accepting that. I don't know, man. The one cope I heard was, well, he was just given the photograph. And so he took it at face value. I'm like, really? You think somebody went into the tattoo parlor and like, you know what? I want to get MS-13 in Times New Roman in small letters on my hand.
Yeah, it's like Comic Sans. I mean, what's interesting about this, because I've done a couple of videos about this today, and I've definitely been tracking it, and I was shit posting about it last night, which is this is of all of Trump's like gaffes and mental lapses, and it's important to remember that as much attention was paid to President Biden during the election, the polls were pretty bad for Trump's mental fitness too, especially after Biden dropped out and Kamala Harris became his opponent. There were various polls which had a majority of respondents say they questioned Trump's mental fitness, and shit like that's not going to help. And quite frankly, I think Democrats should demagogue the hell out of this issue and ridicule Trump and mock him, especially kick him while he's down, because he is down, and we'll probably talk about that as well. As a matter of fact, I saw that Hakeem Jeffries in an interview somewhere was attacking Trump's competence, and then Dan Goldman, friend of IRI's stream, went on Will Cain's show on Fox News, and they had a debate about it. Will Cain was triggered as fuck. He's like, listen, you can disagree with the president all you want, but are you really going to attack his competence? And Dan Goldman's like, dude, he's like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, it's competence, it's lying, it's something, but I just don't think he's competent. Well, I mean, he thinks that, this guy's knuckles really say MS-13. And I wonder what the reaction will be from prominent right wingers, because in my feed, I honestly didn't see that many. It's like they were ducking this issue. Has anybody seen like prominent right wingers?
Of course, that's what they're going to do, and that's what IRI spoke to now. I mean, it shouldn't surprise that the people that he spoke with hadn't heard of this, because conservative media are not going to cover stuff that makes Trump look stupid, and this is just impossible to defend. This thing is going to get the most clicks, but I actually think that the most remarkable part of the interview was him saying, I could pick up the phone and call Bukele and make an effort to get Abrego Garcia back, and I'm just not doing it. At that point, he's just very explicitly saying,
Pisco, is that going to fuck him? Yeah, that's a good. Is that going to fuck him in the court cases?
In terms of his ability and whether or not he's complying with the court's order, he's already defining it. But yeah, this is amazing evidence, and it's amazing for my debate this Saturday, also with Tim Pool, with Will Chamberlain on Kilmer Garcia. So he has said now multiple times that he could get Kilmer Garcia back, and so really that is just a prayer has been answered by me. Even though I had tons of evidence, this is the most direct evidence on that. My most remarkable moment from that series of questions was, is tourism down? I think was the question, or something approaching that, and he's like,
it's gonna be up.
So check in 6 months. Check when the real numbers come out in 6 months.
There are two possible answers to this, right? Which is Donald Trump has completely taken leave of his senses and is, just like Josiah has implied and has stated multiple times, mentally unfit to be president, which I also believe. Or he is the biggest, which I also believe, liar in the history of the world, and knows that he's not going to be held to account by anyone on his side in the halls of power. And so both answers, either he is incredibly mentally unwell or he's incredibly huge of a liar, which I believe both are true, is awful for our country.
It is both, but I think what Trump is doing, or who Trump is exactly what they accused Biden of. Like, I think when they were like, you remember when they were like saying like Biden literally has no idea what's going on, and he's just repeating what the people around him say. That's exactly what's going on with Trump. Like, for example, Stephen Miller keeps repeating completely like erroneously that the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in support of Trump, affirming Trump's decision, when it's the opposite. And Trump keeps repeating that. It's the same thing when he does these sycophantic cabinet meetings and people go around the room. And I'm sure we're going to hear him now from now on talk about how he saved, 250 million lives from fentanyl.
The number keeps jumping up. Have you seen this shit? So, IRI, do you know what we're talking about, like with Pam Bondi? Did you see that particular clip?
I didn't see the clip, but I saw some headline about it. Yeah, the number just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
So yesterday it was 119 million people. Okay, and the comments and the replies on Pam Bondi's tweet were fucking hilarious. It was so funny. Like somebody threw up a chart of all the fentanyl that President Biden interdicted, and like, thank God for President Biden saving 1.73 billion Americans, because this idea, I say we interdicted 25 million pills. That's 119 million Americans. And then the number like basically doubled today at the cabinet meeting. I mean, she's just so
North Korean
dumb.
Media. It's North Korea style shit. And the comparisons are so apt, even just in her expression. And now they're bringing in these insane influencers. I don't know if you saw any of this, but there was like an influencer conference where they have some of the most unhinged shit posters. I'm surprised they didn't like phone in Ian Miles Chong from where does he live? I fucking forget. Is it Malaysia. Singapore? Is it Malaysia? Fuck. Like these are the most unhinged Twitter people that I reply to sometimes and I talk shit to, and they're being wheeled in to do North Korea propaganda for the administration.
It was literally for people who are doubting the way that Pisco is describing this. I saw a question from a lady influencer to whatever her name is,
Carolyn Levitt.
Carolyn Levitt.
Yeah. And the question was literally something like this. It was like, yes. What's the administration's plan to explain to the Americans how great Trump is and how his historically high approval ratings are entirely justified? That was like that was the essence of the question that she was asking, and it was just unbelievable. Like, it's actually wild. And
there's some others. There was one because she's done this for multiple days, and on one day it was like, what sort of this one lady was like, so what sort of question? I don't even know where to begin. Like, what questions would you like me to ask?
Oh my God.
Wait, what? But the one today is by far the most disturbing. I don't know if you saw. So they had like Dom Lucra and Jack Posobiec and some others. Bro, So like Dom Lucre's like, so when are you all going to investigate Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Oh my God.
For election fraud.
Rodham?
Yeah. So that was one. And then Eric Bowling, formerly of Newsmax and Fox News, is like, so is Donald Trump, is he going to go after? Is he going to sue Fox News for their polling methodology? I mean, this disinformation is getting out of control. I mean,
Fox News. Well, it's not working though. Speaking of polling, like they can do this all they want, but the polls show that Trump is just sinking on everything, including immigration, his biggest thing. So
and including the
they can
right-wing
do this all
polls,
they
which
want.
IRI's. Yeah, IRI, and is it completely right? It's across different pollsters too. The truth is, all the MAGA people in the chat right now, because I know you guys love our channel, Trump is fucking up big time. You have Patrick Bet David giving him a C minus. A C minus. Do you know how much Patrick Bet David glazes Trump on a daily basis? On his most recent show, he's like, yeah, we're giving Trump a C minus collectively. That is insane in terms.
What did Vinny say? Did Vinny just pop?
Vinny gave him a B minus. A B minus.
my
He said
God.
B minus because guess what? Trump is such a horrible president. Everyone knows it. The economy is getting worse. Corruption's at an all-time high. The Epstein files are not released. Like the tariffs are incredibly unpopular. He sucks as a president. He's failing horribly, and that's why you guys look like fucking idiots trying to prop him up.
And
let's take a look at this because some of the quotes here are fucking hilarious. So the Adam guy, his PBD's sidekick, he has a really funny line. He's like, quote, I'm right here with Tom, actually, C+, because, it's almost like a team that starts off 10-0. My beloved Miami Heat start off 10-0, and then all of a sudden they go on a 10-game losing streak. I don't know why. So I don't know. I'm confused here. Okay, so they play 20 games and lose half, and you're giving them a C+. But this is my favorite part, Liberation Day, where he liberated America of like $5 trillion worth of and nobody saw it coming.
Of my 401k.
Yeah. So
Joe Rogan smoked him too. He said he's done a terrible thing with Kilmar.
The interviewer in ABC called him, referenced Rogan saying that actually, which I'm sure ruffled his feathers. But yeah,
just one more quote from the PBD thing. Quote: This is Patrick Bet David. He goes, quote, but the results, it's C minus to me. To me, their grade right now is C minus on results. First 100 days, you go purely by results. We were told on day one. This is just insane. We were told on day one that there's going to be peace with Russia and Ukraine. It's day 100. There's no peace there. I thought there was going to be a deal. This motherfucker genuinely believed Trump was going to. That's insane.
Well, to be clear, though, they did sign a mineral deal just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, they did. The breaking news on it. I thought the mineral deal was going to be done. He's going to go back and he's like, never mind. It's actually like, it's an A++.
By the way, the minerals deals is America stealing minerals from Ukraine.
Oh yeah,
that's the
that's
mineral
capitalism,
deal is just
baby.
It's us doing like kind of mafia style protection over Ukraine. It's completely preposterous, this whole thing. And the cope is no one actually believed with Trump when he said all of these crazy things. It doesn't matter if he meant it or not. People did actually believe it, and people did take it seriously. Even people like Patrick Bet David.
Well, but it's I think I want to go even a step further than what Pisco is saying, is because here's the thing that's going to upset me is that in 2.5, 3 years, when either Trump himself, who might be inexplicably running for a third term, or Trump's children, Trump's cabinet members, when like whoever Trump anoints becomes the Republican nominee, every single one of these spineless fucks who has lived through the Trump recession, has lived through Trump stagflation, has lived through human rights violation after human rights violation under the Trump administration, is going to look you in the face and say, well, this is J.D. Vance. That's not Trump. That's not him anymore. This is
the tariffs
this is the
are
moderate. Yeah, this is the moderate J.D. Vance. This is fucking Don Jr. They're not the same person. Every one of them will say shit like that, and it's gonna really piss me off. Okay, if you were stupid enough to fucking vote for Trump, like Patrick Bet David, okay, if you were stupid enough to support Trump, like Joe Rogan, one of these influencers who should know better, you are a complete fucking moron, and you're a propagandist for saying that any of these guys are any different. They're all following his orders. They're all carrying the bucket for Trump, right? And it's going to be really frustrating because people like Patrick Bet David, they'll come around in 3 years and say, look, I criticized Trump. I was never that big of a fan. I gave him a C minus, and that's why I'm voting for J.D. Vance.
Balls and strikes.
This is some shit. No, this is what will be said by these same people after Trump's popularity goes to 30%. Like, oh, I was never that on board with him. Brother, you voted for him. You said people should vote for him. Okay. And that's a stain on your record. All right. Yeah. So, no, we don't always call political things right. We're going to get some things wrong. It's always a complete package for who you're voting for. But voting for Trump is insane to do.
There was a particularly devastating poll from Fox News that just came out today or yesterday on taxes.
You actually have the name of the poll this time, Hutch.
I do, yeah. I learned my lesson. On taxes, they have them at 38%. I guess people are interpreting tariffs to be a tax, which they are. On the economy, they give them 38%. The economy.
Ouch.
Trump on the economy, 38%. On inflation, he has 33% approval. These are just devastating numbers. Like,
he set himself up for failure on all of those issues, right? On taxes, it's like, well, we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. The previous tax cut, nobody's going to see their rates go down. Their costs are going to go up because of the tariffs. He says, we're going to make prices go down. Things are going to reverse. Every economist on the planet knows that's just not possible unless maybe you destroy the fucking economy, which maybe Trump is going to do. Like, you can't have deflation. Prices are going to stay the same. Nobody's gonna see like, oh, my grocery bill just went down by 30%. Like, that's not going to happen, right? Of course, he set himself up for failure in this regard. But it is, maybe his last term, so maybe he doesn't give a fuck. But whoever's the nominee in 2028, it's going to have a very uphill battle.
IRI, are you surprised that Trump's honeymoon period ended as quickly and as starkly as it has? Like, did you think he'd have more of a honeymoon? And if it did end, are you surprised at how precipitously it ended?
Boy, that's a great question. I knew he was going to be incompetent, and he surrounded himself with incompetent people. So it seemed like he was destined for failure. But you look at Joe Biden's approval numbers around this time, he was, I think, around 55% still. Trump is down at like 42% overall. So things, people expected a lot. And I'm surprised as you guys, like, people believed he was going to stop the war in 24 hours. Well, it turns out they did. He sold this tale that for the last 4 years, Joe Biden was asleep at the wheel, and it was so easy to prevent these problems and fix all these things. You get a competent person in there, you pull the right levers, you press the right buttons, and bada bing, bada boom, we're all golden. Turns out it's a lot harder than that, and people are quite disappointed. I mean, the grocery store prices were promised to come tumbling down. He made tons of these promises, and after 100 days, I think people are looking at their watch like, what's going on here, buddy? Time to deliver.
So our last guest was Kyle Kalinske, and he boldly predicted that Trump was going to go down into the 20s. Do you agree with that?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. So I don't know. Is J-Mac a troll? I'm sorry, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, J-Mac is... He's not a troll. He's just a Trumpy that is in.
Okay, well, I just saw two back-to-back things because this guy's been commenting. So just real quick here, maybe Hutch might want to take this. Maybe Hutch might want to take this one. How is the honeymoon phase over if all Trump supporters are sycophants? You people are retarded.
I don't even understand the question. The honeymoon's over because he's underwater in the polls, like across a dozen polls.
How can he be underwater in the polls if Trump supporters are sick?
Idiot. Independents are like 78% disapproval now. That's what's changed. It feels like I'm talking to Cenk Uygur sometimes. Cenk Uygur, who's like, oh, so people are disapproving of Trump. I guess you guys were all wrong about it being a cult. No, you idiot. We're talking about a specific subset of America, right? Not everyone is in the Trump cult. Not even everyone who voted for Trump is in the Trump cult. His base, his right-wing populist MAGA base is in the cult. And that's why both IRI and I think everyone here will say, I don't know, actually, but at least IRI and I, because I saw him nod, we don't think he's going to get into the 20s because I think the cult is bigger than that. I think the cult's probably like low 30s.
If he plunges us into an actual recession, I think you do end up in the 20s.
I think his bottom is like Great Recession level recession, 30%.
No,
like there's no way he gets.
He can go down to like fucking 18% if we went to the Great Recession, and it was his fault.
I think George Bush left office with about a 25% approval rating. Like George Bush, who didn't have nearly the cult of personality that Trump did, and that was the Great Recession.
Well, the worst of the Great Recession didn't happen until Obama was in office, right? Didn't the worst of it come in 2009?
That's true. But I mean, Obama carried a popularity rating of like 40-ish%, 45% during that time. So I mean, look, I don't think that Trump is going to shed almost any of his actual base, even if we have a Great Recession. Like, I think that probably what we would expect would be to see him tick down into like the 35% range. And I think that realistically, the recession's not going to be so bad to see him go into the low 30s. If you ask me, I could see it happening. But that's my expectation. The Colt is very powerful here.
It's not only powerful. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to
Ira.
say,
No,
I'm
you-
surprised he's so low already because
Yeah,
the tariffs haven't
Definitely.
even hit. Like, we haven't seen
They have not
any
even.
price increases or anything yet. And 401ks mostly recovered. It's still down, but they recovered a lot. And so we haven't even seen the worst. Like, you know, Israel's rampaging. Biden handed him a ceasefire when he left, and that's over. And Israel's been abusing the people in Gaza for 2 months with no supplies coming in. So it's going to get way worse. And so we haven't
I wanted
even
to make that
started on the bad stuff.
I wanted to make that comparison since you brought up, Israel and Middle East to what Econoboy said before, where he was kind of putting out two different scenarios of where potentially, the economy could recover if Trump did an about face. The problem, which is the same as what's going on in the Middle East, and I'll tell you the comparison in a second, is he's painted himself into a corner. He either has to, continue, or he has to admit that he was wrong the whole time, or it'll be obvious that he was wrong the whole time. In the context of the tariffs, if he has a unilateral retreat without any concessions, and he's not going to get major concessions, or if he does get major concessions, it'll be a result of years-long negotiations, which will not blunt the damage in the short term, or he has to admit that he was wrong and just like completely get rid of the tariffs. In Iran, he has to admit, because right now there are some people in the administration who are actually trying to prevent a war, a broader escalation in the region, and so he's willing to negotiate with Iran. But his options are either have a war with Iran or basically redo the Iran nuclear deal under Obama, which he said was the most disastrous deal. And so on both of these fronts, he's stopped by his own ego and ideology, which came into the office saying that like the Iran nuclear deal was a disaster. Oh, but maybe we need to do the Iran nuclear deal. Or, tariffs are awesome. Oh, wait, maybe not. So like, it's just a really hard position for him to be in.
Well, so I really want to underscore one thing though that was said earlier about the Trump cult. Did you guys see Frank Luntz and his like visceral response to a focus group that he was conducting? It's like going viral, and the whole thing's like 27 minutes long. I don't have the spiritual fortitude to put myself through it, but like, so Frank Luntz, conservative pollster, one of the most reputable in the business. For the audience's benefit, he conducts this testing group or whatever. Oh fuck, what's it? Focus group of Trump voters, and their responses to his questions actually have him like basically, what the fuck are you talking about? So they're all happy. They have no buyer's remorse. They are perfectly content with what's going on. One's like, well, listen, my 401k was actually a lot worse under Biden, so I'm going to give him some slack. Like at various points, Luntz is like, so wait a minute. None of this bothers you if your 401k goes, or if prices rise at the store. He's like, I'll just start buying American. That's what I really want to do anyway. Like again, just hearing the shock. This man who's done focus groups for decades, you can hear it in his voice. He's like almost arguing with them, which you're not supposed to do, hosting a focus group. He's stunned, and he's been making the rounds on CNBC and CNN in the past 24 hours talking about this. He's like, I'm stunned. He's like, because this defies all conventional wisdom. Until now, if a president was presiding over an increase in prices, and we saw this even in the last election, the last 4 years, the voters would be pissed. We even heard Democrats turn on Biden because he's president and prices are going up. The MAGA cult doesn't give a fuck. And so,
okay, but
yeah, they just don't give a fuck.
But it's like our co-panelists here have been saying, they haven't really felt the full impact of these policies just yet. So I'll be very curious to see. I mean, it's easy to just say like, oh, I'll just buy, fucking American or whatever. You'll say you'll make these adjustments and you'll be fine. It's another thing altogether when you go to Amazon and it's fucking paying $50 more for something that costs $100. When they actually feel the impact of that, I think they will start. I'm not saying all of them will, but I think a lot of them are going to be like, actually, I don't think I like tariffs.
I mean, I'm hoping you're right.
Stock market. I saw a comment from someone named James Bendon or whatever in the chat. It's not just the stock market. We're not praising the stock market. The stock market is one indicator. As Econoboy laid out, he was given the expenditure calculation for GDP, and he explained why, notwithstanding the cope from Trump people. I really want to highlight that people who are saying, "Oh, it's just the import stuff." The expenditure method of calculating GDP is basically a way to get to the value of gross domestic product. What's the stuff that's produced in the United States, and that's one one method of doing so. So it's an accounting trick to subtract imports, but it represents actual negative consumption of domestically produced stuff and the lowering of the value and the slowing and shrinking of the American domestic economy. And so the stock market is one measure, GDP is another.
I think I see what you're saying, Hutch. I kind of disagree. I'm open to being wrong. I mean, we'll have to see, because I really think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But we have to keep in mind how small a minority of people that we're talking about are, right? So, for instance, when Rob Noor, he criticized me because I was like, oh, half of Trump supporters are garbage, right? And he's like, how could you possibly say that about half the country? It's like, look.
Meanwhile, you're a pedophile, but yeah, keep going.
right. No, it's like, look. Well, yeah,
I mean, if you ask him, he thinks all Democrats are like want to mutilate kids, but whatever. Anyways.
But listen, the thing is, though, about that is that I'm not even close to describing half the country, right? 34 million people is half, or I think it's 38 million people, is half the people that voted for Trump, right? We're talking about like 12%, 15% of the population here, right? Now,
are shitty.
Well, exactly. But if we're talking about, 30% of people, who voted in the last presidential election essentially still have this cultish devotion to Donald Trump. I mean, like, we're talking about like 10% of people in America. And so if you were to tell me, hey, Econoboy, that 10% of people, if unemployment is 10% and nobody can get any fucking construction done because all the immigrants have been deported and we've seen fucking Ukraine fall and we've seen inflation now is at 6 or 7%. If you were to tell me that 10% of people would watch Fox News and say, it's still Biden's fault, it's because of Biden, it's because of all the bullshit with the IRA and the inflation under his administration, and those immigrants needed to go, and that's because we had an unhealthy economy, and that was fake growth, this is the real economy now, we just got to get through it. If you told me that was going to be those people's attitudes in that environment, I just wouldn't be surprised. This is a minority of people that is really fucking crazily devoted to Trump.
All right. Do you disagree with that? Do you think that how representative do you think the MAGA cult is of the Republican voter, the average Republican voter?
I think that they make up like 30% of the Republican voting bloc. I don't know. I would say that he's taken over that party. I mean, he's really pushed out any other factions in there. The Mitt Romneys are gone. There's no other way except MAGA. You cannot exist in the Republican Party if you don't fully support Trump. Otherwise, even staying quiet isn't really an option. So I would say he's probably got a firm grip on the 30% of them. But I think it's to our advantage. Trump will never be on the ballot again. And a lot of those people won't come out and vote for him. Look what happened in Wisconsin a month ago, where we kicked their asses. We kicked their teeth in by 10 points in a state Trump won just months earlier. So it is to their detriment that they're so fully invested in Donald Trump. That's not going to pass over to J.D. Vance. I don't think so. And Trump's not going to get a third term. I don't mind people entertaining the Trump 2028 bullshit because it just takes away from the eventual Republican nominee in the end. Let him keep talking that smack.
And he will die. I mean, he will not live forever. At some point, Donald Trump will breathe his last breath. And at that point, there needs to be a future beyond him. And the Republicans know that. The MAGA people know that he's an old guy. You saw him like falling asleep at the Pope's funeral. Did you guys see that? He's old. Yeah. He's an old dude. He's
Wait, what was he? What did he look like? I think it was just because he was in a church for an extended period of time and just his infernal energy began to clash with the divine.
He's lost more than a step, and so he said we need to, as Democrats, I think, have a strategy to not do the same mistakes. I just saw a tweet. Pull it up, Josiah. Pull it up. The tweet where an octogenarian. Hang on. I'll put it. It's on my
the
Twitter.
House
So just go to my
Oversight Committee?
Twitter. Yes. Explain it, Hutch, please, while I get the tweet.
There's an 87-year-old woman that wants to be the chair because what's his name? Stepped aside. What's
Jerry
his name
Connolly.
Yeah,
Jerry Connolly, and this gets into a question that was asked in my.
Wait, did you tweet it or retweet it?
I quote tweeted it. Hang on, wait, hang on a second. I'll get it for you. Yeah, here it is.
Who's on oversight? It's in the chat. 87 years old.
She's that young.
Holmes Norton eyes bid to lead Democrats in House oversight. She's
wait a minute. I want to pull up your reaction to it, but first I got to get the first link. I'm about to die. Hang on. That's the funniest thing in the world. Hang on, let me pull this up.
Jerry
Don't
lasted
wait.
about 3 months, man. Poor guy. 4 or 5 months.
I just wanted to, the super chat was asking about Dick Durbin in the Illinois Senate race, so I do want you guys to talk about that too.
Scoop, 87-year-old Holmes Norton Eyes bid to lead Democrats on House oversight. And Pisco says,
That's the appropriate response.
Bernie's still out there kicking.
what?
Come on.
That's funny.
87 is 3 years away from 90. Guys, come on. This is crazy.
Maybe she's got a good 6 months in her, dude. It might be worth it.
On May 6th, the year she was born, the Hindenburg exploded. Wait, did you not hear? What about? I'm going to throw a name in there. Controversial, since AOC is not on the committee anymore. Dianne Feinstein. She needs to make a return.
I don't know how to tell you this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to break this to you. But it's a broader problem with the Democrats that we need to take advantage. And so what I want to bring up the super chat. He was wondering if you guys have any thoughts about the Illinois Senate race. I don't know anything about it, but I'm glad that Dick Durbin is stepping down because we need younger people.
Okay, actually, I want our IRI to answer this first because IRI and I have some disagreements, I think, on some of the more establishment figures like Dick Durbin. IRI, how did you feel about Dick Durbin? You know, he's high ranking. He's the ranking member on judiciary. How do you feel about his announcement that he's stepping down or will not seek re-election, I should say?
I think it's fine. He voted with Chuck to keep the government funded. I think we got to move on. So I think what's fine. Now, I don't know who's could run to replace him. There's that cat, whatever her name is, the YouTuber.
Abba Ghazala?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's running for Congress, but I don't know. Has anybody announced? She's running for House. So I don't know who's going to replace him, but it's going to be Blue. We're not at risk of losing that. But I'm all for replacing people who aren't up for the current fight. You know, like I'm with David Hogg. Like, let's get fighters in there. And, he's had his time. I think he's been in Congress 40 years, Dick Durbin. So it is what it is. So
I'll be honest with you. I'm pleased to hear that, IRI. I'm actually stunned when you just said you're with David Hogg. I'm shocked. What the hell happened, IRI? You're becoming this radical fucking you're looking for some vicious Democrats here. What happened to the chill IRI? All about bipartisanship. Now you want fighters?
I am about the primaries is where we fight, dude. Let's duke it out. Let's make sure you're fighting for your seat every 2 years, every 6 years. I don't care who you are. You should be able to defend your seat and have the energy to step up for the fight. It's after the primary I get pissed off when people are still holding a grudge and still upset. I'm not going to vote for the Democrat. I'm angry. Like, dude, nah, you need to curb your ego or whatever and get on board. And that's when I get pissed off.
That's all well and good. I just don't think we should be doing this thing where we, I say we, but I don't think people should be doing this thing where they say they're gonna put a target on anybody who doesn't publicly endorse Medicare for all, for example. I think it's just like a suicide mission. I think that strategically is just I want that policy, obviously, but this is not gonna happen in 2026. Probably not even gonna happen in 2028. What I want to see from the populist sort of insurgent left is I would much rather these people instill a sense of they need to start treating these projects like long-term projects. And I think they do their causes a disservice by saying that we need to promise that we're going to get Medicare for all done in 2028. Well, to what end? For what purpose should we make that promise? Would it not be better to prime your voters and say, look, this is going to be a long fight. It could potentially not happen for 5, 6, 7 election cycles. And we need to be prepared to show up and vote in every single election and just claw every little seat that we can. So that way, when our opportunity comes, we actually have those votes. You disagree, Pisco?
We got to promise big. It's all about energy. The realism is whatever. And yeah, you can add it as a footnote, add it as an asterisk to be it'll be tough. I think that's fine. But I think that we need to be ambitious, and if that means saying this is what we'd like to do, acknowledging that it's difficult, but saying this is what we'd like to do, I think it's about how you tone it, how it's perceived.
Yeah, look at Trump. Look at Trump. To Pisco's point, Trump won a campaign by promising the most bullshit. On day one, I'm going to resolve Ukraine and Russia. On day one, I'm going to bring down prices. I'm going to snap my fingers and make it happen. And we're finding out, according to the polls, apparently a lot of Americans believe that shit.
So I want to tell the truth. I want to tell the truth always. So Hutch, to address the vulnerabilities, you add a footnote. You add an asterisk. You add a little line that says, it'll be tough, but that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're going to do. If you give us a majority in the Senate and House, we'll do it.
No, I think that's fine. What you're describing, I think is fine. That's like standard politics. But I'm specifically talking about, I won't name any names, but there's this new kind of like
You hate Hassan. We
we've
know.
seen it. No, it's not. We've seen this kind of approach before with like Justice Dems, for example. You know, like there was like the whole point was like to pressure these people to go on the record and then like spend money and resources trying to unseat people who don't take this public
Are you
position.
talking about
But it's like-
Rebellion Pack, Jenk's new project?
Well, maybe we'll avoid that
Formerly
topic
run by
for now. But yeah, I mean, I think you give your movement more fortitude if you package it and just tell people kind of honestly, like, this is a long-term project. We shouldn't imagine that all of our goals are going to get done in 2 years, and that way you can overcome some of that vulnerability of like promising of a policy, inevitably not delivering it, and then like look what happened.
I don't know if...
Look what happened to Biden with the public option, for example. Like he promised a public option, and right away the lefties were at his throat because it didn't make it in the ARP.
I think that the reason that, like, okay, that's actually a really good example of kind of what I was going to talk about as my contribution to this, right? I think even Hakeem Jeffries said this, where it's like, hey, what's your healthcare plan? It's like, well, we already did Obamacare. It's like, bro, Obamacare sucks. Nobody likes Obamacare, right? Now, yes, the Affordable Care Act has a decent approval rating. Medicaid expansion is good, but it's nowhere near actually fixing some of the fundamental problems with our healthcare system. And then
It's a giant subsidy,
right? Yeah. And when you say that, Hutch, I think that's a good point, where I think that a lot of Democrats who even campaign on like a public option, we were in the middle of a pandemic, which poked so many fucking holes in our healthcare system. It was a ripe time to pass a fundamental change in our healthcare system. He runs on a moderate public option, doesn't even propose it in his 4 years in office. That's wild.
Why didn't
he
propose?
zero.
Why didn't he propose?
Yeah,
it?
we know Hutch, but I think there needs to be ambition here, and one of the problems.
No, but that's an important question. Why didn't he propose it?
No, Hutch,
so-
number one, even if, here's the thing, right? Okay. If you want to say, oh, he didn't propose it because he didn't have the votes because Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin like seeing all the poor people grovel for fucking benefits because they're evil, that's fine. That's reasonable. But I think that the progressives have a point when they say, put those motherfuckers on the record. Put a little bit of pressure on
and it's not just
them,
progressives.
right?
It's not just progressives. If you read Abundance, one of Abundance's biggest criticisms is how lethargic, how slow, how sort of gummed up in the works the Democratic Party is at base. And so, Hutch, I agree with you. Realism needs to be a part of our agenda. We need to be realistic. We need to not lie to the American people. But there needs to be a fundamental shift. Either if you're a lefty progressive or if you're an Abundance Dem, that Democrats need to do things faster and more ambitious as a fundamental sort of structural level. And that's coming not just if you're a progressive, but on the whole, Hutch, I see your criticism. I see the targeting specifically of one form of maybe the most ambitious form, Medicare for all. Maybe that's not a good idea, but I have no problem in sort of tough fights in the primaries.
Me and Josiah got into it with Kyle Kulinski a little bit when we went on his podcast. There is a practical reason why Biden didn't go to war with Manchin and Sinema, because they wouldn't sign on to some key aspects of his legislative agenda. You still need, like, Biden knew that he was going to have to negotiate with those same senators on multiple bills moving forward. And how does that actually help his broader agenda to declare war? And then, like, what you're going to stymie all this movement on what you can get out of the ARP or the IRA to like pick a fight.
Let me ask you something, Hutch, because I'm curious.
I'm just saying that, like, realism, like, we need to be realistic about this shit. And like,
I take your point, because I was on, in that conversation with Kyle, I was more on your side than his, in the sense that I said that President Biden had to be very careful about not alienating Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, given the margins. I totally take your point there, and I understand he had to walk a tightrope. And I think even a Boy would acknowledge that as well, and most others, that he couldn't just go total fucking, scorched earth way we heard, the way that we heard.
Especially not with somebody who who was serving in a state where Trump won by 42 points. Like, you have no fucking leverage. Anyways.
No, he proposed an immigration plan, though, Hutch. He proposed an immigration plan which was dead on arrival. So he could have proposed a healthcare plan that was dead on arrival. Just write it out. I think he could have done that.
So I take your point, especially about Joe Manchin, but here's my question. how is Trump able to pressure people who are otherwise ideologically predisposed to, like, what about the Freedom Caucus, or what about like Mike Lawler and some other, like, what I call diet MAGA? How is Trump able to do this? What is so different? Because Trump is able to successfully bully people who are otherwise predisposed. Like we hear like Chip Roy, oh, I'm not going to vote for a and then the motherfucker folds. How is Trump able to do this?
This is the argument. This is the argument that I hear a lot from lefties, where it's like, well, Trump gets everything he wants.
Sure.
This is not true. Like the very first thing he tried to do during his first term, he failed. Like this whole idea.
Well, what about now? But I understand. But what about now? Because
you're talk that shit when they actually pass a reconciliation bill. At this point, I'm not even convinced they're going to be able to do that. And so like that cuts against this argument that you're making, where it's like, well, Trump can strong arm. Like, okay, he got the framework of a budget, and he got Mike Johnson as speaker or whatever, but. When the rubber hits the road, how much legislation do you think this Congress is actually going to get done?
Hasn't the Trump-Johnson combination been more successful in whipping votes than you expected? Like if I go back in your streams or on your Twitter, will I not? There's no fucking way they're going to get this done, and they get it done, right? Like how we didn't think that Mike Johnson was going to get confirmed as speaker.
I just don't think this is a fight you want to pick. Who do you think has a much better legislative track record, Trump or Biden?
There's no question that Biden does. But I'm asking you about the ability to bully. Are you going to tell me that Trump is not a more effective bully when it comes to his party than Biden?
What I'm disputing is the effectiveness of the bullying. How are you going to bully
Trump?
Joe Manchin?
Has gotten votes this term from people he's bullied who said that they wouldn't cave to him.
No, I'm asking you, how are you going to bully Joe Manchin?
I agree with you on Joe Manchin. Can you just engage with the question? I agree with Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin's a Democrat in West Virginia. I understand that.
Or Sinema. How are you going to bully her? She doesn't care.
Kyrsten Sinema is in a purple state. Kyrsten Sinema is eminently replaceable. She was vulnerable. Joe Manchin was not. I take your point on she was replaced. Yes, with a Democrat. So yes, I do not concede on Sinema at all. I perfectly concede on Manchin. I'm going to ask you again, can presidents bully members of Congress into backing their agenda? Has it been done? Can it be done?
Sure.
Have we seen Trump do it? Okay.
Sure.
So in theory, you accept that it is doable. Has Trump done it?
Yes.
I'm asking you, maybe there's a good reason. Why can Trump do it and why can't a Democrat? Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe you got it.
Biden could have. That's not the point, though. I'm asking you, what good would it have done? That's the point.
Hutch, I think that the good that it would have done is to, at the very least, we could say.
You guys keep smiling and doing your like snide little smiles, but
I'm laughing.
You haven't made an effective case of like how it would have helped to get a public option.
One of the reasons
like
why.
how?
Well, I mean, there's every chance in the world that if you come out and say that Joe Manchin doesn't care about poor people and he just wants them to die in the street and he just wants to sit in his yacht all fucking day like a king, that, Joe Manchin's just going to say, fuck you, you're actually right, and I'm not going to vote for any of the rest of your agenda for the rest of the time. Like, you're risking that by doing that. But I think that one of the points that we've underscored with the Democratic Party thus far is that doesn't appear to be a good long-term strategy, not only because it seems like by setting the standard so low and having such a broad tent, we're inviting in people like Joe Manchin who couldn't give a fuck less if poor people fucking starve in the street. He just doesn't give a fuck about the people who live in his state, plain and simple. That's not really the great long-term strategy to get the big changes that we want to get done, right? And
so we should have asked Joe Manchin to leave the Democratic Party? Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think you should have at least done a token gesture and made a plan. You should have had a plan, and it should have released on your website that people can actually rally around and campaign on.
Hutch, you
don't even do that,
The greatest presidents that we've had in history, right, and the people that we tend to revere are ones that were able to do big, transformative, bold things, right? Now, Biden did some
What
good
were their
things.
congressional majorities? What did those look like compared with Biden's?
Well, obviously they had. This is under the auspice of having a Democratic trifecta. I don't expect Republicans would ever vote for anything that I'm describing, right?
Yeah, but to Hutch's point, these people had substantially greater margins.
People compare it LBJ did it and a fucking FDR did it, but how big were those majorities?
This is a go-forward basis, right? So again, it seems like we all agree that Democrats have a problem of not fighting enough. We even seem to all endorse the David Hogg initiative of primarying weak Democrats and trying to get them out of there, right? So what we can't do is say, we need fighters. We need people willing to do bold things. And the guy over here who's saying Obamacare is enough, actually, that's perfectly fine. Like, no, it has to come with policies. We have to do like some
who said
big,
that? Was
bold
that
shit.
Jeffries?
I think it was Jeffries. It was somebody who was like, "Oh, well, our healthcare plan. Look, we passed Obamacare, brother. That's not nearly enough, right?"
Well,
like,
I don't co-sign that, for the record.
But
I
that's
think
the attitude of so many Democrats, where it's like, "Oh, you know, how about instead of $15 an hour, how about like $8.50?" Like, bro, no, we have to stop with this moderate bullshit at a certain point. Like, people need help. Our system leaves millions of people in poverty every single year, right? Like, this is not a trivial impact of how shit our system is. I mean, Bill Clinton, right? Like, part of his legacy was like destroying the fucking welfare state and putting millions of people into worse poverty than they otherwise would be in. And yeah, he won elections doing that, but it was terrible for people, right? That was a terrible thing to do. And so we just have to rebuild these things and say, look, you know, we're going to fight for big, bold things that actually really help people's lives, not like an extra $30 billion of spending here and like, oh, we're going to do an infrastructure plan, which is good, but like, fuck, like we need like some real shit that people are actually going to like resonate with.
I don't even dispute this idea that we need to be bold. I'm saying that we need to reframe it for the voters. Like, we need to stop telling voters, we need to stop making like lofty promises. Like, I feel like Bernie Sanders, for how much I supported him in 2020, I feel like he did so much fucking damage in 2016 because he conditioned a lot of people to think that 100% of nothing is better than 70% of something.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous. And again, that's where I'm 100% with you. And again, I just want to reiterate.
I have a question for you, IRI. What was Obama's 2008 slogan?
Hope.
What was it? It was hope, wasn't it? It was hope.
Well, I just want to say, I want to back up my Democratic Party a little bit here. We have good ideas, okay? The problem is Biden identified it. He focused too much on the policy, not enough on the politics. And I think what the difference between us and the Republicans and Trump and Biden is there's a whole network of echoes, like people echoing his message and backing him up no matter what. And we haven't really invested in that. So it's not to blame like new media or whatever, but Trump has filled his party with people who back him up and he rewards them too, right? Like Biden needed to find a way to reward Kyrsten Sinema and reward Joe Manchin to get them on board with what he wanted. And I think he kind of failed to do that, unfortunately.
I'll also say that we have examples of Biden's dynamic with Manchin working successfully. So when Manchin was on his way out the door, he did an interview, I think it was with Meet the Press, and I sent this link to Hutch for him to use in his back pocket the next time people attacked him on Manchin and Biden's dynamic. So on the American Rescue Plan that passed on a partisan basis, Joe Manchin voted for it, okay? And that surprised a lot of people because it was a third round of COVID stimulus and it was very expensive. And Manchin revealed how Biden got him to vote for it. He came to him and said, listen, I need this to pass. And Manchin said, are you asking me as the party leader or as a friend? And Biden said, as a friend. And he said, okay, I will give you this one. Even though I oppose this bill personally, I will vote for it. And so that's an example. Had President Biden not leveraged his personal friendship with Manchin, which obviously frayed over time, we wouldn't have had the ARP. So again, I just want to say to calm things down a little bit. I totally agree with you about Joe Manchin. I think everybody does as well, that Biden was pretty handcuffed there. There's no Democrat that's going to win in West Virginia and may never win in West Virginia again. I feel he had more room to maneuver with Kyrsten Sinema, just given that it was a purple state. And I think that even if there is no Democratic analog to this, I think that a lot of people, myself included, just get frustrated because we look at Trump and we're like, he's able to get these motherfuckers to cave, with the exception of Thomas Massey, on basically every deeply held principle they've ever claimed to profess. And
to the Democrats' detriment. To the party's detriment. I think that's been bad for I think that's bad for the Republican Party. I don't want to emulate Trump's strong arm style.
Well, but I think that would be horrible. I think the reason, however, to be fair, that it's to the detriment of Trump, that I don't think it would be to the detriment of like perhaps a future Democratic president. It would depend on the president, obviously, is that Democrats have genuinely good ideas and Trump has genuinely terrible ideas, right? So like the idea of like President AOC doing whatever she could to bully Congress into passing Medicare for all, well, that would just be based. That wouldn't destroy the economy like Trump's ridiculous tariff policy. That wouldn't make us a national fucking embarrassment like Trump's foreign policy. Like, no, like that would be a good thing, right? And so, you know, obviously, there's always going to be transition costs, and like people didn't like Obamacare when it was first passed because of the transition to that system. So, you know, there's political capital that you have to spend here. But I don't know. I do think that the idea that, hey, maybe, let's make the next 85-year-old the head of this committee because, we don't
that's
want to
terrible.
ruffle any
We wish he
feathers.
was that young. It's 87,
Well,
as a matter of fact, according
No,
to
I'm,
but
I'm,
that's what-
I'm
that's
with you
what
there.
That's what I'm saying, though. But that's an example of like the reason why Democrats do shit like that is because the Democrats, the Democratic leadership has just like a culture of kind of just not ruffling many feathers and just trying their best to just like, hey, like whoever the narrowest opinion is, like as long as we can come out together as a strong caucus, like, yeah, we can pass some bills and keep the government open doing that. It's good that we don't have a government shutdown every time we're in office like the Republicans, but fuck, like it does feel like we're leaving a lot on the table by allowing the narrowest voices to dictate the entire party's platform.
Circling back around to the Dick Durbin thing, though, I'm curious, IRI, because you have an encyclopedic knowledge of the roster of Democrats. How do you feel with Dick Durbin leaving that it will almost certainly clear the path for Sheldon motherfucking Whitehouse to finally ascend to his proper place at the top of the Judiciary Committee? How do you feel about that? Are you hyped? Because I'm hyped.
I know you're a way bigger fan of the judiciary and what's going on there with Sheldon than me, but I like Sheldon. He's been based. He's Citizen United's biggest enemy. So I think it'll do a lot of good. He's got energy too, and it's exciting. What I am more excited about, though, is Dick Durbin abandoning his leadership position as the number 2 Democrat in the Senate opens up a spot. Right now, Cory Booker's the number 3, and Amy Klobuchar's number 4. So perhaps there's an opportunity to
Who would you prefer?
move somebody up. I don't
Gun
know,
to your
Cory
head,
Booker's
who would you
shown a lot
prefer?
of leadership recently, and maybe there's a path for him to become the future Democratic leader in the Senate. A lot of people I don't think were thinking much of Cory Booker, me included, before his 25-hour marathon speech. But he's doing some interesting things.
Like this is a
Get
Chris
rid of
Murphy
Schumer.
fan account here. All right.
You don't
we love
wait. You
Murphy.
don't want Schumer?
I am not. I like Schumer. I have a lot of respect for him, but I really think he screwed up on the continuing resolution, because when you look behind you and like 10% of the party is standing there and 90% want to fight, and you don't want to fight, you just got to roll up your sleeves and fight. You just got to give in. But he'll never be proven right or wrong if he didn't made the right move. But I don't know if he's got the energy for what we need right now.
Yeah.
Not to defend Schumer, because I'm not. I just want to not to defend. But remember he was saying like he's not going to be. Said his popularity was going to go to shit in the next 6 months.
Boy did it.
So far, I'm just saying. But
What is he, a
We all thought that he
17%?
would-
It would be even worse with the government shutdown, though, right?
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I agree there. Yeah.
It's tough. It is interesting, I guess, what the Democrats are going to do with this leadership race. Because my understanding is that the whip, you do run for it, and there is a vote that happens. I don't believe it's an open door vote. If I'm not mistaken.
When you go to the procedure is that when you go to elect a new Senate whip, you have to first consult the Senate nene.
The Senate what?
Wow. Really bad.
The Senate nene. Now watch me whip. Watch me nest. I'm sorry.
God.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
cringing.
It's a
I'm
serious
Sound
podcast,
like Schumer.
so-
I'm loving it.
whatever.
No.
I loved it.
But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, maybe Cory Booker is just like the automatic guy who gets it, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like Chris Murphy's been making a lot of headlines. Progressives have talked about Elizabeth Warren maybe taking a leadership role. So I don't know. We'll see, I guess. I mean, she's old as
Yeah,
shit, to be fair. So.
The Senate's not the most exciting place. I know people are looking for excitement, but it's a little old school. It's a little different.
Yeah.
More grown-ups.
The speaking of replacing Dick Durbin as the Senate whip, I saw Chris Murphy's name was floated in chat. Did you see his marathon? Well, not by Cory Booker standards, but he dropped a 26-minute speech in the Senate detailing in intimate detail the corruption of Trump in these past 100 days. Like, guys, it's people talk about, I think we even mentioned it the last time, it seems like in so many ways we're starting to see the limits of the Steve Bannon flood the zone approach. I guess if you flood the zone with so much shit, eventually people like, okay, I can't sort through each turd, but I'm standing in shit. So we're starting to see the results of it. But it is so hard to keep track of Trump's corruption, and he's on top of it, man. Like, this is just objectively the most corrupt administration in American history. And I will say, with all the polls that have gone on, I would be curious to see how the American people are reacting to that. Like, I haven't seen any polls which talk about corruption and things of that nature. We saw some polls like that during the election. And of course, Trump was seen as far more corrupt than President Biden or Vice President Harris. But do you think that any of the corruption, the meme coin, the dinners that he's having with his do you think any of that's going to resonate with the American people? Anybody?
Well,
I
don't
think
think
it
the
will.
American people. Go ahead, Pisco.
Oh no, go ahead. You first.
Well, I just think people can't even comprehend what it is, like it's so far removed from their lives that I don't think they care that much if he's corrupt, like it's like the evangelicals that vote for Donald Trump, they know he's not religious, but they think you need like like an ogre to fight against the evils of the world right now. So I think it's the same thing with the corruption. They kind of, so what, who cares?
I think that there's a cumulative effect that it will have, and especially when you're able to list them off in a summary fashion, it might have some effect on, again, 1-2% of people who are on the fence, and that would be humongous. So for example, if you talk about like Signalgate, did you see that? Like that, it stresses a level of incompetence. If you talk about if you take the Kilmar Brigo Garcia situation to be corrupt, which I do, that polling on that is pretty stark in favor of the Democrats, despite some of these more like don't push immigration issues Democrats. Here I'm thinking about Iglesias. Here I'm thinking about who else said this? Gavin Newsom. It's just crazy. So I think that there's a cumulative effect that some of this corruption takes. I'm not sure that any particular story is going to stand out, because have you guys ever seen like The Simpsons Mr. Burns situation where all of his ailments are preventing him, are counteracting each other perfectly? There's kind of that effect going on where his corruption is so broad and so corrosive and horrible that somehow taking back he seems less corrupt, just because you can't particularly like focus your eyes on any one thing. So
exactly.
I take that point. But I think there is a cumulative effect on some people, probably the incompetence more than the corruption. I wish it were otherwise, but yeah, I think it could have an effect on the margin.
Yeah, I just don't think this is the kind of corruption that Americans are, for the most part, really kind of primed to care about. Like, oh, he did a meme coin. Like, what is even that? I don't really understand. Like, I mean, he did a lot of corrupt shit in his first term as well. That was just like very blatant, like, making the Secret Service stay at his own hotels. And like, he literally billed his own federal government like hundreds of millions of dollars.
He didn't divest. Right? He's a walking emoluments clause violation.
I mean, like he did so much extremely graft, like corrupt shit. I mean, like even within his own party, like there was all those stories about, he was raiding the legal fund and he was just wasting all of this legal money people were donating to, and like that was towards the Republican Party. No Republican called it out. Republican voters did not give a shit about that. Clearly, frankly, I don't even know. I hesitate to say this, but like, I don't even know if voters even care, period, about corruption that much, right? I really don't know, because here's the thing, okay? Hillary Clinton, look at her in 2016. She had a lot of corruption scandals before she ran for president in 2016. Progressives did call out the fact that, she was taking speech after speech after speech with lobbyist after lobbyist after banker after fucking Wall Street executive, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know what she said? Oh, they were just interested in my life. No, they weren't, Hillary. These were bribes, right? These were bribes. And everyone knows it. And even Democrats didn't give that much of a fuck about that. Like, I think people are they're pretty output oriented on these types of issues, right? I don't know that they care much about personal corruption.
Except when it's like you have a account on nudeafrica.com. What was the guy, Mark Robinson?
Look, in my state, North Carolina.
Mini soldier.
Mini soldier account.
You're only bringing that up because he's black. Okay.
Listen, wow. I'm only bringing it up because, wait, was it a gay scandal? Oh, no, it was what was the scandal?
He was just
on a porn site.
He talked about like peeing on his sister-in-law, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
That was it. The whole incest thing. Yeah.
He said he wanted to own slaves. Even though he was black.
That was it. Yeah. Oh, he's the black Hitler. He's like, I'm a black Nazi.
He
Yeah,
called
yeah.
Martin Luther King Martin Lucifer, and then used a slur for his
Oh,
last
wow.
name.
Yeah,
And
that
North
was
Carolina
wild, hey?
Republicans were like, "That's our standard bearer right there,
No,
please."
that's an excellent example. Like that dude still got 40% of the vote.
Mhm.
Like that guy.
But he lost
that
by
guy.
20 points in North Carolina.
No,
Bro,
no.
what's
Roy
going on in
Moore,
North
it was-
Carolina is insane. Do you see what the Republicans are trying to do with
Yeah.
a fucking Justice Allison Riggs trying to just totally steal her seat out from under her? And it wouldn't even flip control of the court, right? It's not like it'd still be fucked up, but I would at least compute it if it were, going to reshape the balance of the court. No, they would still have, I'm pretty sure, a super majority. And it's just insane. Like the authoritarian aspect of this party, and they're going for broke. It's crazy shit.
Roy
Well,
Moore
they're getting
basically
desperate.
acknowledged that he groomed a fucking like multiple 13-year-olds, and he lost by like 0.02% at Alabama. It was such a tiny, it was such a close
Yeah.
race.
No, Alabama.
I mean, look, to be fair, yeah, he did win that seat, but I mean, that's a great example where like Roy Moore got publicly banned from his local mall because he kept trying to pick up 14-year-olds, and the half the fucking state of Alabama was like, but this guy's a Democrat. Like that was like literally, if you listen to interviews of Roy Moore voters, they're like, look, this guy supports abortion, and I'll never vote for a guy like that. It's like, this guy supports fucking kids.
RFK Jr. was accused by a former nanny, I think, of sexual assault, and he basically was like, I was a little rambunctious in my youth, and didn't deny it.
He's
And
no
like no
choir
one talks
boy.
about
It
it
was
anymore.
5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's
obviously
why
it's-
Governor Polis has no future in national politics, because he supports RFK Jr. I put him in the same category as Gavin Newsom. I put him in the same category now as Gretchen Whitmer hugging Trump. Oh yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait.
So this one's interesting. Okay. All right. IRI, I don't know where you are on this, but how do you feel about your governor's post-election approach to politics? How do you feel?
Gavin Uger.
Well, I think he's definitely tanking his chances to get the nomination in 28. But, I applaud the podcast. It feels like he's trying different things, and I appreciate that. He stumbled out the gate a bit, but I'm willing to bet he can recover. I was surprised by the Gretchen Whitmer thing, too. I had to go look it up. But she appeared with Trump in the Oval Office. That was kind of odd. And then yesterday, she was at this announcement he made. But it sounds like it was for the state of Michigan and for, like, this air base to get certain planes.
And
But
she handled
I
the
think
second
it's-
one better. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
she handled the second one way better. But yeah, I don't know what's with these Democratic governors trying to cozy up to Trump. I assume a lot of it is, look, I can't wait 4 years to get resources for my state. And I think it also shows you how bold Trump is being with his threats and holding back resources, just the corruption, shall we say, that they're left with no option but to kind of kiss up to him a little bit.
Hey,
I
you
don't know.
know who's handled it totally different, though? Fucking JB Pritzker, man. He
And
is
it
like, shit.
Viva la revolucion, our own little Che Guevara.
Yeah, I haven't seen like his whole speech, but isn't he like demanding public demonstrations against Trump or
He
whatever?
went
Like
full
marching-
Maxine Waters. He was like, give them no respite. They should get no rest. You should
Dare I
constantly
say-
be. Yeah.
Maybe in 2028 we should consider nominating a big boy as our nominee. Okay, maybe
big
he should be
chungus?
the guy. All right. No, I mean he's honestly been one of the one of the more based guys. And look, it's weird because JB Pritzker is like, he's like one of the good billionaires. Like he's a billionaire and he's like, look, I made billions of dollars and I'm just gonna fucking come in and just be a progressive weirdo and I don't give a fuck anymore. Okay, and that's exactly what his attitude is. I love it.
Wait, all right. What were you?
Say that though, Econo Boy. I got to come at you a little bit here. He's one of the good
Damn.
billionaires. You're probably the most progressive
good
person on
ones.
this panel, and he's one of the
True.
good billionaires. As I was saying, he's one of the good
Listen,
serial killers.
listen,
Okay,
it-
it's a nice thing.
Look after
Come on, billionaires are monsters, dude. I know
Look,
people
he-
disagree
he-
with me on this, but these people are foul.
Look, he still goes in the gulag when the class war ends, right? But maybe he gets a better cell than the rest of them, right? But he's one of the good ones. Okay, it's just same thing with like Tom Steyer, Mike Bloomberg. I don't really like him. I never liked him. Not a good
We'll
guy.
give
I've
give
never liked him,
Pritzker internet access and a free subscription
Yeah,
to
he'll-
Econoboy Substack.
but
and
he'll get one
uh,
of them Norwegian prison cells. Okay, one of them nice ones. But no, I mean
fair
he
enough.
does seem to be like a pretty genuine guy. I mean, he is a billionaire, and he obviously probably doesn't have like entirely correct opinions, I guess. But he does seem like a fighter. That's one thing that we've been saying IRI on this show for a long time, is that this is kind of ideological neutral. What we're talking about, right, is, we're really just looking for people who are willing to be bold. And, compare Gretchen Whitmer's approach to like Janet Mills. Janet Mills over in Maine, she got called out in person by Donald Trump, and her response sitting at that, she didn't even stand up. She was like, "I'll just see you in court." Bitch. She didn't say that. Yeah, exactly.
No, she did say. Yeah, she should have just said "bitch" at the end.
And she's the governor of a purple state. She has every reason to acquiesce to Trump, and she just said, "No, fuck you. Like, I'll see you in court. I don't believe in the shit you're talking about." And I think that that's really the line that these governors should be playing. I mean, I understand you need disaster assistance and stuff like that, but I mean, I don't know, like. If Donald Trump says, I'm just going to let millions of people die in fires because this guy said he didn't like my position on trans women in sports or some shit, like, this is a fascist.
Gotta stand up to tyrants.
Yeah,
Gotta
exactly.
stand up to tyrants.
Fuck, raise the taxes yourself as a state if that's what it takes. Like,
another governor who's raising his profile, I'm curious how you feel about him, is my former governor, Andy motherfucking Bashir of the great state of Kentucky. He was actually on Fox News earlier today, just absolutely dog walking Martha McCallum on Trump's economic policies and shit
in the
like
nicest
that.
possible way, I'm sure.
Absolutely, the Mr. Rogers of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of him?
He won by like 4 or 5 points his reelection, and so in Kentucky. So I mean, tough state. But I don't know. I was gonna say it's so hard to know who the right person is for 2028 right now. It's impossible. We don't know what the issues are going to be. We don't know what world events are going to happen. So that's why when I hear, Gavin Newsom is blown in or whatever, we're a long way from the election. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? And maybe Andy Bashir, he surges to the top. Who knows?
Yeah, but Andy Bashir, he's got a bit of a Riz problem. I think he needs to work on his Riz game. But I think that he's got.
You have it or you don't. It's something you have or you don't have.
No.
I'm sorry to say this.
I disagree with this. Here's why I disagree with this. Okay, it's not whether I agree. You have it or you don't. I'm sorry, I do agree. But here's what I'll add to that conversation. I should say, okay, because we're all in one coalition here. Of course, we can't disagree. What I'll add to that conversation is this. Okay, is that I think a lot of the reason why a lot of Democrats don't have Riz is because they refuse to show it. Because they just want to be this cookie cutter fucking, I can't be too bold. I got to, listen to these people and we got to do this or that. Just be yourself. One of the ways that Trump has Riz, I wouldn't call Trump or Bernie like, Rizzlers, you would say, right? But they fucking are just themselves and people love them for it. Okay. So just be yourself. And that's
what if
like
Andy Bashir? I think Andy
Riz.
Bashir is himself. Like you guys walking around, like thinking Andy Bashir's walking around with like, I don't know, like he's into BDSM or something like that.
Swinging
He's
his
just
dick
like,
around. Fucking,
like,
I mean, to be fair, Andy Bashir might not have it. Okay.
No, I think he does. It's just a different type of Riz. It's just a different type of Riz.
People want a fighter, and he's just so nice. I mean, his words are awesome, but he's just so nice every time he delivers them.
That's my concern. That's as much as I like Andy Bashir and wish he could be the standard bearer of the party. My one concern is I just don't think he's sufficiently ruthless. But maybe he'd be a really good VP. I don't know.
Buttigieg, AOC, Tim Walz, Chris Murphy. Those are the fighters.
Tim Murphy?
Chris Murphy.
Oh, okay. Chris Murphy. I was like, I thought
Are
you
you
said
having
Tim
a
Murphy.
stroke, Econo boy?
Like I might be.
I think
don't know.
Buttigieg
You don't think
is
Booker?
the one that's impressing the most. Buttigieg is just killing it. His appearance on Flagrant was just amazing. And if we can get some more of that, then wow, we can destroy.
He has a beard and he said fuck more than once.
No,
Dude, they
that
asked him-
appearance, he'd put on, I think, a masterclass in terms of going into those spaces, not coming across as a smug prick. Like he never, he just, the whole time he was smiling, they were laughing, they were joking. And he literally got them to say at one point, like, oh my God, are we becoming liberals? Which I thought they're memeing, but like, I think they're expressing a genuine sentiment in that moment. He explained to them, what did he explain to them? It was about, I
So
don't
many
remember.
things. Like he explained to them the issues with
the
Doge.
Social
was one.
Security. It was
Social
about
Security,
dead
yeah.
people being on Social Security. And by the time he was done with his explanation, literally all 5 of these like podcast bros are like,
They were like, oh. Yeah.
And that shit I think is gonna like stick. Like they're gonna remember that conversation. And that's just people. It's just one little appearance or whatever, but it's a pretty big podcast.
I think. Do you guys think that Tim Walz would do well on a podcast like that? I say yes. Some people say, oh, he's too nice or whatever. I think because Tim Walz can yes, he is. He seems like a fundamentally kind person, like very avuncular, but he can also throw fucking shade with obviously the best of them with a smile on his face. So I think he'd do really well in an atmosphere like that. What do you all think? Or would he be out of place?
I mean,
1 second.
I think that I think that's something that's interesting about Buttigieg's appearance on that podcast was that he didn't come off as very shrewd in that interview. Like they were talking about like shit that it was kind of wild to hear like a politician even be in a conversation about. Like they were talking about like they made jokes about Grindr and like he was talking about how he met his husband and they were they made a joke about they were joking about like, oh, have you ever like had sex with a woman before? And they talked about like being platinum gay, where he was like, oh, that's where you're. They go, oh, are you a platinum gay? And Buttigieg is like, what is that? I don't know. I've never heard of this. He goes, oh, that's where you were delivered by C-section, so you've never even had contact with a vagina before. And like Buttigieg just laughed off, you know, like he was totally, you know, he was just one of the boys basically. He didn't seem out of place, right? Because politicians, I think, come off very tight and very like clean and prim and pressed, right? And I think that Buttigieg is doing a good job of just kind of, again, just seeming like a normal fucking human being, which is, you know, seems like a low bar, but the average Democratic politician for a long time seems to have really struggled with that, honestly.
I want to see Andy Bashir on Flagrant now. That's what I want to see. Yeah. Can you imagine?
I'm not a fan of this one of the boys discourse. I think it's very sexist to kind of, what do you think about that?
Wow.
Look, I wouldn't. Well, I mean, what is Buttigieg one of the girls just because he's gay? You fucking homophobic piece of shit. Okay, I mean, I wouldn't say that either. Would
Point
I?
for a kind of boy there.
Exactly.
Okay, can I ask a question?
He's stuttering now. I got him on the ropes.
I'm stuttered, right? We had a whole discourse about this where if someone accuses you of being gay or accuses you of having a crush, the worst thing you can do is to deny it. If you say no, you're not gay, or no, you're not homophobic, you sound like the most homophobic or gay person, respectively. That's just facts.
I say I wish. I go, listen, I'm straight as a ruler, but I wish it'd be so much easier to hook up with dudes. So many more options.
But do you actually wish you were gay?
Well, I think life would actually be easier because I'm nervous as shit talking to women still to this day. So I don't know. I hang out with my gay friends and they just like go up to dudes. They're like, "What's up? What's up?"
Oh, you would pull so much ass if you were gay, bro. Like it's not even funny.
Maybe you would be nervous talking to guys. You know? Fuck.
Yeah. How do you know?
I mean, look at him.
How do you know?
No, not how do you know? I agree with you that he would, but how does IRI know that he would fit in better? Or he would have an easier time approaching people.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
Well, I don't know. I just think talking to dudes is much easier. Maybe it's because I'm not attracted to them, but I don't know. It just seems like the bar, like, I don't know, when it comes to, this is going to sound like boomer, millennial, whatever, but I just feel like with gay dudes, it's like you skip a few steps pretty quickly when it's like you meet someone you like, you know? You kind of get to the point a little more quickly.
That's definitely true. Just to be
Is America ready for a gay president?
That's a great question, Pisco. You know what though? Like honestly, the discourse about like, is America ready for a black president? That happened right up until Obama came around and he was this generationally skilled orator. I happen to think that Pete is like, he has the potential to like blossom into someone that could like maybe rival Obama. Like I genuinely think he's exceptionally talented. And so he could come around and like really surprise people, but it's a valid concern.
Here's my hot take. President Clinton was a better orator than President Obama. Hot take.
You already talked about that hot take.
What?
Yeah, I stand by it. Yep.
That's a pretty insane take, I'll be honest, Josiah.
I don't think so at all. I think it's eminently reasonable.
He was one of the better speakers at this year's DNC or last year's DNC.
Yeah, well, here's my hot take on that. I actually was disappointed by Clinton's speech. I was like, holy shit, he has aged. You know, he set the fucking building on fire in 2012 in his DNC speech renominating President Obama. But yeah, I do. I think in terms of just the ability to deliver a speech, I would actually give the nod to Clinton over Obama.
Listen, if you had to pick one of them to give a eulogy at your funeral, we all know you're picking Obama. Okay. Nobody
yeah, because Clinton would hit on my fiance.
Well, you'd be dead though, so don't you want her to be happy?
With Bill Clinton?
Why not?
Because he's married happily to Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Bill Clinton would never survive these soy Zoomers who are all about microaggressions. You know, he would never be able to live that down.
Clinton would have definitely.
Oh,
been
you know about
canceled.
What do you
this,
think about
huh?
that? IRI,
Oh.
tell us about it. What happened? What happened?
I know
bro?
all these people. I know the TikTokers.
Tell us
dude.
about
That-
it. All right.
It is.
Give us the neutral. No one's going to blame you. You're not going to. We're asking about it. You just give us the neutral diagnosis. Just pretend you're Chat GPT.
Oh, I mean, it's ridiculous to label people racist for microaggressions. In my opinion, microaggressions is a moment, teachable moment where you bring someone aside later and like, hey, I don't know if you realize, but like what you're saying is could be perceived in a wrong way. And if you know, most people will probably be like, oh my God, I didn't mean that at all. And next time I approach that situation, I'll do differently. But I think it's out of control. They're all canceling each other. They're accusing each other of this or that. But in case people don't know, this is about the Unfuck America tour by Dean and Parker, which was to match Charlie Kirk's tour. A bunch of liberals, not liberals, but a bunch of people on the left from TikTok got together, and were like 30 or 40 of them. And they went out to Charlie Kirk's event in Texas to have their own booth and try to challenge him. I thought it was a great idea, and I was stoked. I almost went to it myself. I found out about it too late. But afterwards, they just started attacking each other, and it all fell apart. And now there's people being canceled for conducting microaggressions towards a panel of black women by calling them angry and aggressive or something like that. I don't know. I got kind of canceled for it by some of the creators or people over there because they didn't like that I was saying what I just told you guys right here.
Is there going to be an the Unfuck America tour? Or they try to unfuck the unfuck?
It's
I mean, because
over.
I saw some clips of that on Twitter. I just saw Dean. Dean is the one I'm thinking of, where he approached Charlie Kirk and like was trying to get like people at the Charlie Kirk rally to like have a conversation with them then and there. So as far as I know, like, because I think Dean also said that he's supposed to have a one-on-one with Charlie Kirk later on. So it sounds like it was successful in that it got attention, and they're supposed to have a conversation. But like it's officially done.
It's officially done. The tour was successful. The stop. It was supposed to be more stops matching Charlie's tour through college campuses, but it's over now. The whole thing fell apart, and they're all hating each other, canceling each other.
Oh my
So,
God. That's so
What about
sad.
Parker and Dean? What about
Left-wingers fighting with each other? That doesn't sound.
Yeah.
Are Parker and Dean at odds, or are they still
No.
aligned?
Parker and Dean are boys, and I'm friendly with them too. And so maybe if something else comes from it, I'll be able to join them on that.
No, but
they'll be fine. Yeah,
They
Parker
cut
and Dean
ties
are-
with Harry though for being a little fuckboy.
yeah,
Harry Sisson?
I'm still
Yeah, bro.
go with
Oh.
Harry too. Like
I thought that was
we're
kind
not
of a
friends,
little.
but we're friendly. But yeah, I feel bad what happened with Harry too, because that's also stupid, right? Like, okay, he lied to
It's
some
really
chick
silly to
get
cut
her dick.
him out
Yeah.
because of that stuff, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think is more likely? A reunion between Dean Parker and Harry Sisson, or Hassan, Ethan
The One
Klein?
Direction of debaters. Yeah.
And which would be
Definitely.
more desirable for the Democratic Party?
Dean, Parker, and Harry's much more likely than Hassan and Ethan and whomever. Because they're young. These are young guys. They're in their early 20s. And, you fight with people. You get back together. It's not the end of the world.
Hassan and Ethan are gonna have a conversation on Friday, so that should be fucking.
That ought to be very great.
It's not going to happen.
And we know which side Hutch is on.
I mean, firmly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ethan, he's gonna Sam Cedar Hassan with someone. I can't imagine he's gonna sit down and he's gonna be like, "Oh shit, it's fucking Destiny" or something. Like he's gonna pick like some guy to like sub in for him. I think.
Wait, you
That
don't
would be
mean that, right?
so lame.
Look, he did it the first time, and it was a viral moment, and it was really funny.
Hassan said the same thing. Actually, he said he was afraid that he was gonna spring a Destiny or Sam Hyde on him or something like that.
No, literally, I could imagine. Like, I'm putting. I said 100% in my Discord. I don't think it's 100%. I'm gonna say there's a 25% chance that happens. I think there's a meaningful plausibility that that's actually what's gonna happen. So we'll see.
He said Kamala's gonna win.
Do you guys have a side?
On what?
Ethan
I don't know this conflict.
Hassan?
Ethan be Hassan?
I don't. I haven't
Easy.
followed it closely.
Yeah, both
Ethan
sides
all
just
the way.
seem. I mean, obviously, the harassment that Ethan is getting is completely unjustifiable, right? Like, it's not even. That's not even close, right? I think
CPS
that.
stuff. You mean?
Yeah. Well, any of the harassment, he got the skull sent to his house, and people obviously he's probably
You got a
gotten-
what?
You got a human
yeah.
skull,
He's
bro.
got some human skulls.
Yeah.
Oh fuck!
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
No.
So I mean,
I saw that.
any of that.
What's
is
the
crazy.
substance about? The substance about Israel Palestine, right?
Yeah. My
No, there you go.
understanding
That's why I
is
don't
that-
follow it.
Yeah, my understanding is that the core of the conflict is that Ethan didn't like how what he perceived to be like sweeping that Hassan was doing for Hamas and like the October 7th, and like the problem with Hassan and like his broader group is like, for instance, Ethan will say like, hey, like you're friends with Frogan, and Frogan was like an actively like celebrating the Hamas attack, and she was
Wait,
saying
really?
unhinged things.
Fuck that.
Yeah, she was saying unhinged things like American soldiers with PTSD or it's hilarious or whatever, and this kind of thing.
Oh, I saw that.
And
now.
yeah, and Ethan makes the point of like, I mean, these guys suck, man. Like, what are you doing, right? And obviously Hassan tries to defend them, tries to say no, this and that, tries to inject nuance into it, and then Ethan's just not really having it because Ethan lived in Israel for several years. His wife and his wife's family are Israeli, so he's a little bit closer to that issue. I think, and then iDubbbz came out with this content cop, and it seems to have been
I tried to watch it. It was a little boring, to be honest.
It seems to have been kind of a disaster for iDubbbz because it really does seem like most people are not on iDubbbz's side on this one, it seems. And like even his Creator Clash event, he's had like I think like 2 or 3 boxers pull out of that event now because of how ridiculous it's gotten. So, I think that the one point he had though that I think was reasonable about Ethan's side is, if you're Ethan, I mean, it really does seem it seems like the rational thing to do to be just to ignore these people, right? But Ethan seems to be very insistent on like responding to all of these people and like bringing it up on his show every single day. And look, you fuel the fire when you do stuff like that. Like it's probably best to just ignore these people.
He's a bit too online. There were two main I think like disagreements. The first one you mentioned where Ethan was, I mean, to be fair, there were a lot of like prominent, I don't know about a lot, but like there were a few like prominent left-wing creators, like Second Thought was one of them, who in the aftermath of October 7th basically said that, in this specific example, he said that everybody that lives in Greater Israel is a valid military target because it's like a settler colonial project. And I mean, that was just one example. And Ethan wasn't happy with Hassan, not like necessarily like excusing that, but like Hassan was more prone to be like, yeah, but you got to look at it from this angle and trying to add that nuance. And then also
the thing is, though, I want to say about that, Hutch, though, real quick, is I've seen a lot of that equivocation and hesitation when it comes to a lot of like objectively horrible shit that Israel's done in this conflict. And listen, I hate Hamas. I think Hamas is horrible. I think this attack, people who like equivocate on the attack and whether or not justified, I think that's stupid. And I've seen Hassan do it, and I think it's horrible. But I see people kind of do that kind of, I'm not sure when it comes to like objectively bad things, like the cover up of when they killed those like first responders, everything. Did you guys watch the BBC report? I forget his name. He does a bunch of these. You guys know it, right? What's his name? You guys know it.
The BBC
he did the settler
report.
stuff. The BBC guy. He's you got the chat will know exactly what I'm talking about. But he basically went and just interviewed a bunch of settlers. Thoreau, right? Louis Thoreau. That's it, I think. And they are some horrific statements being made, openly genocidal statements being made by a lot of these people. So, and I think that there is a lot of cover being made by certain, maybe not Ethan, but yeah, no, I just think that it doesn't need to get as like horrifically petty as it's gotten. Stick to the merits, but all this petty shit is just, for me, it's cheapening the actual substance.
But I think it's not fair to their audiences either. Like, you're getting people emotional and people fired up, and I just think you got to have a responsibility to like be the cooler person and bring down the temperature. Like, I saw Mike from PA at the Bernie rally in Los Angeles, and we talked. He says nasty things about me all the time, but I just put that stuff aside and we had a nice conversation. So, I mean, I just think Ethan and
you're
Hassan
a better person than I am, because that guy is one of the fucking weirdest, worst people on the internet.
You would never
I'm
talk
not
to
a
him?
fan, trust me, but I'm always cordial when I see people, and it's kind of funny for me to like, confront people too when I see them in person, because they're always different, nicer in person.
You were cordial to Haas. That's one of my favorite clips of all time. Is when Infrared and his little buddy, his little whatever Russia guy, came up to you and like,
Hinkle,
"Hey,
he's
is this
huge.
IRI? Is this IRI?" And like, "Hey, man," you just like killed him with kindness.
IRI, are you gonna write? Are you gonna do a Bill Maher and give us a monologue about your dinner with Mike from PA and whoever this other person is?
Oh my god,
Wow.
that's so frustrating. By the way, that Bill Maher gets charmed. I want to say this again. I made this tweet. We just need to bring common sense back to politics, people. These are the Bill Mahers. These are the Chris Cuomos. These are let me think of the other people. Stephen A. Smiths. Like these people just need to shut the fuck up. I am
Cuomo
so tired
and Smith trigger the shit out of me. Maher, here's what I will say about Maher.
They both just interviewed Trump tonight, actually.
Yeah, there was a town hall tonight, and I can't watch it because I imagine it's going to be the most softball shit
softballs
that you've
sure.
ever had. Here's what I will say about Bill Maher. Okay, in his defense, I suppose, because I think there is a nuanced take on this. If you actually watch his monologue about his conversation with Trump, he did say a couple of things. Number one, he said, even though Trump was nice to me or whatever, and he had a sense of humor, blah, blah, he said, it doesn't matter. He's like, what matters is what Trump does on the public stage. So I felt that was a concession to make, because if the truth was you did interact with Trump and Trump was charming, which I can believe because we hear reports about this all the time, that Trump knows how to flip the switch. If you need to acknowledge that it's irrelevant because what he does as president of the United States is infinitely more important. Maher acknowledged that. Maher said that he called Trump out, and I believe him, about losing the 2020 election and how he's scaring people and the Iran nuclear deal. Because he said at one point, Trump asked me about Iran. He's like, would be great if you didn't shred the Obama, Iran nuclear deal, but you did that. And then the other thing I'll say is he went back to immediately ripping Trump a new asshole, that episode and every episode since. So I just want to say, I think Bill Maher is slightly apart from Chris Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith. My beef with Stephen A. Smith, my beef with Chris Cuomo is he does this whole he does the both sides shit, triggers the shit out of me. And then Stephen A. Smith, talks about how, the Democrats want me to be, maybe I need to run for president. I don't want to, but if nobody else will step up. But all he does is bitch about the Democratic Party. He did an episode of his own show yesterday or the day before about Trump's 100 days. And he went through all the bad polling. He's like, you know what I take away from this? Democrats suck. It's like, wait, what? It's like, what? I can't, he would spend
Bill Maher
his
does
entire.
That too.
No, I don't.
That too.
No, it's not. Somebody, I consume more of his content than yours. I'm telling you, it's not the same, because Bill Maher will tell you, if you ask Bill Maher, okay, who's worse, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party? He'll say, I make no bones about it. The Republican Party is objectively worse. The Democratic Party has its issues, but the Republican Party, they reward their crazies. They empower their crazies. So I would argue that Bill Maher is pretty crystal clear about at least the two parties at an elected level in ways that Stephen A. Smith is not. So to me, Stephen A. Smith and Chris Cuomo are the worst offenders.
Here's what I'll say. I appreciate Crystal Ball and Kyle Kalinski's coverage more than I do Bill Maher's. Way more.
100%. Yeah, of course.
Co-sign that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
What the hell does that have to do with anything? What's Crystal Ball have to do with it?
No, because people will say, for example, that they're too lefty, they're all this stuff,
No,
but they are way better on Trump than any of these motherfuckers, these centrist, apologist people who are just obsessing over things that don't matter and being charmed.
Yeah, I totally. I think that Crystal Ball, and I even said this, when we did our episode with Kyle, she has been, I would argue, one of the most fierce critics of Trump since he took office. I think she's blown away a lot of the other quote unquote resistance libs. I think she's done really good work there at breaking points.
She has. It's a little frustrating that she didn't she took a public position of not voting for Kamala, but I mean her coverage so far has been.
Wait, she didn't vote for Kamala?
I believe not. No, because
I know Anna Kasparian didn't
confirm.
I know Anna Kasparian didn't.
I don't want to slander anyone,
cooked.
but I'm almost positive that Crystal Ball said that she couldn't endorse or vote for her. Because
I don't have a problem with their thoughts on Trump. It's the criticism of the Democratic Party that drives me crazy. It's like they spend so much time on that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't wait, but we should be angry at the Democratic Party right now. I feel like the approval rating of the Democratic Party has never been lower. Chuck Schumer has what 19% approval overall in the country, and it's just dog shit approval among the Democrats. Something big needs to change, and I say this, I'm not saying that you disagree with that IRI fundamentally, and maybe you're just talking about like the tone in which it takes, and not necessarily that the party needs change, but I think that the party needs major change, substantive change, and I think, as I said before, both abundance liberals and people who want to see sort of market oriented solutions to a lot of stuff, and the progressive left recognize that whatever the Democratic leadership is presenting, the American people aren't buying it, and that even the Democrats aren't buying it.
Criticism is fine as long as it's fair criticism, right? I think I don't want to speak for IRI, but that's how I feel about it. Like, I don't have a problem principally with people criticizing the Democratic Party. I have particular gripes with specific critiques.
Well, I mean, that's fair. Yeah, go on.
I don't think we need to like rebuild the party. A lot of people talk like this. I think we got pretty good platform. We stand for some pretty awesome stuff, but we need better messengers. We need to sell it better to the American people. It's like I said about Biden earlier. Biden said he spent too much time on policy, not enough time on the politics. And so I think if we just find a way to reach people and sell our message, like Pete on Flagrant, it's GG. I mean, would you argue that Pete Buttigieg needs to revamp his entire messaging and his platform? I would argue you would say no. So I think we just need more Pete Buttigiegs out there selling our platform and what we stand for, and we'll be good.
He's got a beard and he says fuck. I agree. I think we're in dark Pete. We're in dark Pete era.
I remember 2020, and maybe it was just because it was a weird year and everybody was fired up because they were cooped in from COVID or whatever. But I remember Pete Buttigieg getting fucking skewered by the progressive left because they accused him of like price fixing bread
when he worked for McKinsey.
And they accused him of rigging the Iowa caucuses with his CIA friends. And they didn't like the fact that his position was Medicare for all who want it instead of like Medicare for all that bans private insurance. And if they do that again in 2028, I think that's going to be
well, you know who also hates Pete? Cenk Uygur.
That's true.
Pisco's favorite person. IRI, what are your thoughts on Cenk Uygur's approach to politics since the election? Because he voted for Kamala Harris.
He did.
He also said Trump would be back.
He put his eggs in the Doge basket stupidly, and they failed him miserably, right? So I think Cenk is just way off with his cozying up to MAGA bullshit. Nobody wanted that. Nobody needed it. And I don't know. I haven't seen him since. So obviously he fell off. But
I take your point, but also Dave Portnoy has recently criticized Donald Trump, and I didn't
see the criticism.
You didn't see it?
Cenk Uygur have to do with it? Anything?
Yeah, what?
Oh,
Cenk
well, he just Cenk's always right. He's like, did you hear that Joe Rogan criticized Donald Trump occasionally? Did you hear that Dave Portnoy said that no, it is Donald Trump's economy and not Joe Biden's economy? Don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining. I mean, that's the MAGA populist uprising. I think Ira, I think you and Pisco just don't want to admit that maybe Cenk had a point here.
Listen, if Cenk had a point, if the right-wing populist space actually did a revolt, I think I would admit that I was wrong, but nothing at this point is going to cause Cenk to admit that he was wrong. They're increasing the military spending in their budget. They're not being dovish in the conflicts he says that they're being dovish in. And so it's just, there's no sign whatsoever that the MAGA populist space is serving as any kind of pressure to the administration.
Well, it also seems like every time right wingers revolt, they pick like an even worse person to replace the
and an even worse issue. Yeah,
like it's not like they go to being because Cenk's point is like MAGA populist, like the MAGA populist base is fundamentally reachable by populist Democrats. Like if a populist Democrat comes out and says, "I believe in paid family leave, a $15 an hour minimum wage." And there's like one other issue that Cenk is just like, sure, will be the thing.
Medicare for all.
Maybe it's Medicare for all. Like, if you just do those three things and you just say a noun, a verb, and those three things, you can get whatever, 10, 20% of the MAGA populist base to vote for you. And that's just like so demonstrably false, right? Like unbelievably false. I mean, this, you know,
to put it very mildly, it's like a very incomplete analysis because right-wing populists are motivated by very different things than left-wing populists. And
mean, like
Cenk just
Cenk
seems
says-
to think that you can slot that one populism in and just win
what
everybody.
What about MAGA lefties like Batya Ungar Sargun? You guys
She's
familiar
fucking
with her?
insane, dude. Like she's actually crazy. Like she's a crazy person.
Wait, who?
I think she's a grifter. I mean, I don't know what else to call that.
IRI, do you
She's a
know who she is?
pro-Israel-
Never heard that name.
You've never? Oh, bro, look her
She's
up.
the
Like,
MAGA communist, bro. She's talking about
she
how,
calls herself a MAGA lefty.
yeah, and she recently claimed that Trump nuking the stock market was great because it hurt Wall Street. I don't know. It was like really like.
This
Yeah.
is the Russian caucus. These people aren't real. Okay. The last time, like I saw a rally with Jackson Hinkle and Jimmy Dore, and like 100 people showed up. Okay, this is just such an astroturfed group of people. Like, it's
Did
just
you see
wild.
Jackson Hinkle give a speech to like Yemen? Like,
It was
Yeah,
He was at the funeral. No, it was
He
the
went
funeral
to-
of Nasrallah.
bro, he went to Yemen and gave a speech in front of like hundreds of people.
Thousands.
At the funeral of
Was
Nasrallah?
it thousands?
I think it was Nasrallah's funeral, right?
That's
Well,
crazy.
I mean, this guy literally. I mean, I don't want to This guy is like literally a fucking paid fucking agent of the Russian state. Like, I mean, my God, like I wouldn't. This guy's a completely. I mean, he's not like a. I mean, he's a grifter. You could say that for sure, but. Like this is like grifter tier S or something, right? Like this is like
it compromise? Do they have just fucking dossiers of just like really incriminating shit? And they're just that has to be going on some level. I don't know how widespread it is, but
I think
No,
it's just
Jackson
money.
Hinkle. Yeah, it's just money. Like he got his Russian fucking mail order bride and shit, and like he's traveling around the world. Like,
Would you
no,
debate
like-
him on Tim Pool?
Dude, I would fight Jackson Hinkle before I debated him. Okay, like that guy is
fight-
like genuinely such a piece of shit, dude. Like I don't know. Like there are certain people where I'm just like, I just want to fight you, man. Like let's do a fucking influencer boxing match or something. Like I don't know. It's just I feel such a rage when it comes to certain grifters, right? It's just like he's actively, like promoting terrorism against the United States, right? And I mean, obviously we have free speech. He has every right to say that stuff, but it's like I would spit on the ground that this guy walks on. Okay, he's not a representative of the left. He's not a representative of some actual coalition within American politics. He's a paid agent. That's
Hey,
all
you're
he
talking
is.
about IRI's buddy whom he met at TwitchCon that one time. No, I'm just kidding. Was
I
that
did
where it
see him,
was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at TwitchCon, yeah. He's
Yo,
gonna get
guys, are we
drone
all gonna
strike
hang
one
out at
day, don't
TwitchCon?
worry.
Wait a minute.
Let's have a-
IRI, what was he like? What was he like in person?
He's a pretty normal guy. I met him and Haas. They were walking by, and I was hanging out with Chud Logic and Irrelevant and some other guys, and I was like, "Hey, Haas," and he's like, "What's up?" I was like, "Hey, it's your buddy Chud Logic over here."
Do the
and then they
voice.
started going at it. But Jackson, he came by my stream once, and he told me I'm one of the good libs. This is before he got really big, so he kind of knew who I was a little bit, but we didn't really talk. Yeah. They're all pussies in real life. They're all these people. That's why I said you got to meet in real life and talk to people because everybody, you can settle your differences very quickly. And
but they're
most
not
people
though.
are
Like
frauds.
like they're not set. Like Mike did not settle his difference. It's just he's a fucking pussy and is not going to actually
Right, but
tell
now-
you to your face. He's just going
Right,
to pretend to be nice. He said horrible shit about you, bro. Like
I know, but now
constantly.
he stared me in the face and he knew I was punking him like a bitch because he wasn't saying any of that to my face. You know. So-
Listen, I hate the fact that we'll never have an online politics influencer boxing event. Imagine.
Oh
the
my
grudge
God.
match potential.
You've been the one trying to set that up
Imagine
for the
grudge
longest
match-
time.
Listen, okay, the grudge match potential here is out of this world. 100,000 people would watch this live. Okay, it would be one of the biggest.
Kisco versus
More.
Jenk.
more
Dude,
if you
dude.
can get the right people on that card. You can get
Exactly.
millions of viewers, bro.
Okay, exactly. You could get a crazy amount of people watching this, but again, it's online politics. Nobody would agree to it, right? But I mean, just think of all the potential. You could have.
I would
fucking
agree to a
Ethan
boxing
Klein.
match with Cenk.
Yeah. You've got Pisco versus Jank. You've got
You two
fucking-
are both big boys. I don't know about that. Like, it's there's a lot of
It'd be
yeah.
a heavyweight
you
bout.
could have Emma versus Anna. Like that's your co-main right there. Like that
Oh,
would be an
man.
insane boxing match, right? Sam Cedar versus I don't know who could Sam Cedar. Like all these people would attract so many sponsorships and so many viewers. We could raise $10 million for charity, but it'll never happen. Okay, because these online.
I'll collect the tickets at the door. That's what I'll do. I'll just stay there and collect the tickets at the door and escort people to there. I'll be the usher.
Do it, man, this would be fun to do. Like it'd be fun as fuck. But
Hutch is like 7 feet tall. He just reach out and like grab the person's head and just keep them back. So they're like swing.
Listen, who are all of our opponents? Hutch, who would you want to fight in an influencer boxing match?
I don't know. Let me think about that.
You got a name in your head. I mean, we've all got somebody.
Denims. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Josiah, who are you calling out for an influencer boxing match? Who's it going to be?
For a boxing, dude, I don't know. Like,
anything, man.
I can't imagine. I've never been in a fight. I can't imagine like taking a punch like that.
Piers Morgan
fucking hurt.
and lose. Imagine losing to Piers Morgan.
He's like, I call this a Union Jack. I do, and then he beats the shit out of me.
up.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah,
me and
that's
IRI should fight because like we're very similar build.
Similar.
How much
build,
do you
similar
weigh?
age.
I'm about 170.
Oh, okay. I got to lose some weight.
6
I gained like 20 pounds in the last like couple of years, and it fucking all went to my stomach. Like
You'll
all
drop
of it.
that no time in a training camp, Hutch. You'll get in good shape. You know,
I could.
We could
True.
do it. I don't know who I would fight.
You're gonna need a
Wait,
Mark
somebody's
Cuban.
like, who would pick Joe Rogan? Who's boxing Joe Rogan? Econo boy, there you go.
I would box Joe Rogan for sure. Okay, it would be really hilarious. All right. The
Wait,
build-up
don't you
would be
actually do
great.
fighting? Aren't you actually like kind of a fighter?
I do wrestling and jujitsu, not actual striking, because I'm a bitch, Hutch. No, but I don't actually do a lot of striking. If I boxed, I did have an opportunity to box actually. I hadn't done my face reveal at the time, so I didn't get put on the card for that reason. But I was organizing to box actually. What's his name? He's a gun YouTuber that ran for Congress.
The Death of Certainty, aka Wick
No. He's a gun YouTuber who ran for Congress, and at one point they were going to do an influencer boxing match under Keemstar's promotion, and he basically they needed like a liberal. They wanted to do like a conservative versus a liberal boxing match. Brandon Herrera, and they're like, "Could you make 185?" And I'm like, "I think it's possible." And I was gonna do it, but then they found out, "Oh, you haven't done a face reveal yet. We want somebody who like his face is already out there." And I'm like, "Well, I'd obviously do a face reveal for the match, but
What did
whatever."
the Econo wife think about this? I'm curious.
Look, my wife was not happy that I was dead set on
wife.
doing this. She said she was just really like, she's one of these like, one of these women who's like, "Look, what if you die?" And I'm like, nobody dies in a boxing match except for the couple of
do
times that it
sometimes.
Is she
happens.
the beneficiary on your
Creed,
insurance?
hello?
Is she?
Look,
Is
but-
she the beneficiary on your life insurance policy?
Well, clearly she's not. She didn't want me to do it. No, but like, it's like Brandon Herrera. That's the guy saying he's not going to kill me in a boxing match. All right. He might beat the shit out of me because he's maybe a better boxer than I am. But, I just think, I don't know. It's stuff like that just sounds fun. And maybe the thing that would cause Hassan and Ethan to let let bygones be bygones is
Never
getting
gonna
in the
happen.
ring together and fighting it out and
Hassan
hugging
is
and throws
way
after.
bigger than Ethan,
It
bro.
would
That would
seem
be
Hassan's a
massive
monster.
views.
Look, okay, Ethan would go to Israel, train with the IDF. Okay,
No way.
He'd get on all the steroids. They'd prepare him good for this
teach him
boxing
Krav
match.
Maga.
The
you
entire
can't-
state of Israel would be behind Ethan in this boxing match.
You can't train athleticism like that. You either
Fucking
have it
Evie
or
would
you
be in the
don't.
front row for that boxing match.
That's
okay?
probably true.
Pisco says athleticism is like Riz. You either have it or you don't.
No, it's the kind of thing. Like if you didn't play a sport growing up, if you didn't do any lifting at like formative years, I think your overall there's a limit on your athleticism. Athleticism is different than being like overall athletic. It's just having a good sense of your body, being able to move in sport, having good like IQ about sports or about whatever contest you're in. And so I don't think that you can just hit the gym and become an athlete. I think that's something like
I've
if you miss
watched
your
every
window.
sports movie I've ever watched. Every 80s sports movie I've ever watched says you're fucking wrong, Pisco.
Yeah, do you ever see Rookie
Okay.
of the Year, bro? You can break your arm and all of a sudden you're throwing 120 mile an hour fastballs.
He just ran-
IRI, what was this like? Pretty weird, huh?
This experience, hanging out with you guys,
Yeah, I had fun.
this is fun. I'm usually
Yeah.
on an island by myself, getting canceled by the left and the right. So it's always fun to.
Who's
hang out with
canceled
guys.
you?
Well,
Dude, they
like
hate
on
him.
TikTok, they're all soy and freaking out about microaggressions, so I get canceled there. And then the far left hates me, like Hassan hates my guts, and so then the right can't stand
Wait,
me.
Hassan
so,
hates
know.
you?
Yes,
Hassan knows you?
Hassan hates me. Yes.
And then
We
Andrew
watched
Wilson
the,
thinks
debate
Andrew
Ben
Wilson thinks
Shapiro.
you're a communist. You remember?
Yeah, Andrew Wilson hates me. I just, I
Wait,
keep
wait,
to
wait,
myself.
wait, wait, wait. Where did I see that? Was that a panel debate?
Yeah, it was me and Pisco and IRI and somebody else. We're on a panel with Andrew Wilson and a bunch of other people. And Andrew Wilson kept on calling IRI a communist, which was just like,
Dude, IRI versus Andrew Wilson boxing match. That'd
I
be
gotta
great.
say, Andrew Wilson was very pleasant personally on Tim Pool. Like interpersonally, from what little I'd known about, I thought he was going to be a dick, and he tried to be. But like for the most part, he was actually pretty chill.
Yeah.
Maybe I
Happy
caught him on
for
a good
you.
day.
Yeah, Andrew's
I
one of those guys who's like, he'd be nice at the barbecue, but he's just completely unhinged on every one of his political opinions. Unfortunately, I
Oh,
guess.
somebody said Rob, Pisco and Rob would be the boxing match.
Yeah, but I think I'm much taller than him.
Make it happen, man. Okay, first of all, Pisco,
I would do it.
that's an insult. Okay, I bet Rob's a tall guy.
That's not an
all right?
insult.
What would it? What would his
It's-
stage name be once he entered the ring? Would it be Fisa, Kevin Kleinsmith? What would
No, it would be. Let me think. What would it be?
rambunctious Rob.
Look, what you do is you have
Rambunctious Rob.
you have each fighter nominate a donee of their choice, and then people can donate to back their fighter. And then Pisco can come in and say, every dollar you donate to back me goes to the DNC. And then Rob can come in and say, every
Progressive
dollar
Victory
you
Pack.
every dollar you donate to me goes to whatever, like Donald Trump's legal fund or something. And it puts
the
extra
Jan
stakes.
6
I
one.
love this idea. I wish it would happen.
He's got. Why would Trump doesn't need a legal fund? He's got millions upon millions of dollars in pro bono legal work from all the fucking law firms he's bullied.
Listen, he
True.
still needs more than that. Okay, what was it? $400 million. That's not nearly enough. Okay, this is Trump we're talking about here. All right, he needs
Charisma
more.
Rob.
All right, we should wrap this up, boys.
Yeah,
I just wanna say,
listen. Yeah, go ahead.
I really
Go ahead,
appreciate
Ira.
you guys letting me come on here. I've hung out with 4 of you guys. The only one I haven't seen in person is Econoboy, and hopefully we'll get to meet one day. So it's always a pleasure to come hang out with you guys. You guys are some of the greatest people in this space. And I always tell people,
Hell yeah.
we don't get to pick who the content creators are that succeed. And so when good, decent people do, like these guys, I'm delighted. I'm thrilled. So
No, man, listen, we appreciate you. And maybe at one point in a year, we should have like some sort of like live and learn live event,
Yeah.
where we
At
where we-
TwitchCon.
I'm not on Twitch. Is that like is TwitchCon a thing? Is that like really? Do they do that? That's the thing.
But TwitchCon is a thing that is actually it's not made up. Like it does.
It's
happen.
a real
But
thing.
I thought
That's true.
that there was a thing where somebody like broke their back or something at like the last one.
Was that a TwitchCon?
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah, they got
shit.
I didn't make that up. I know what I'm
they
doing.
jumped in like a foam thing or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but the
I don't
foam
think
pit
Hutch,
was
you don't-
only like 1 inch deep, and they broke their
Hutch,
tailbone
you
or
don't go to
something.
TwitchCon. I haven't been to the last. I'm probably not going to go anymore. But yeah, do something in person. Why not?
Let's
Yeah,
do it,
live and
guys.
learn live.
Let's meet in some central
2
location.
people show up.
I don't know what that would be. We could meet.
What
in-
about
Well,
a
one's
midterms
West
party?
Coast. You're South Central, and the Pisco and I are also East Coast. So
Let's just meet in Texas then. Sounds great. Nice and
where
maybe
the
something-
fuck did you get that?
Something for the midterms, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. We'll start planning.
New York mayoral election. That's going
Did you?
down.
And by the way, I should say before we wrap up, we should use this time for Pisco to announce his endorsement of Eric Adams for re-election.
No,
Pisco for
Oh,
Mayor
wow,
Adams.
That's incredible.
No, they're memeing. They're memeing. No, it's they're just stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. I'm running for mayor, and it's gonna be great. And it's
Mayor,
gonna be fantastic.
Wait, can you imagine? I love it. The fucking campaign ad is 5 seconds long. It's will you vote for Pisco? Yes,
Yes
or
or-
no? That's so funny.
All right, IRI, where can
All right.
people find you?
Yeah, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at I'm Really Important on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. Come hang out on TikTok. We're having fun debating people over there, and it's quite the riot. So thank you guys for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on.
All right, everybody. I guess we'll be back next Wednesday. Thank you all so much.